It's Podblast time. That's right, it's Podblast time. Once again, we're going to have a great show, even though this is a somber occasion, because recently we lost the great Bob Barker, and anyone who's listened or watched this show, The Nostalgic Podblast, for any length of time knows that I was a fan of Bob Barker. He was the guy who babysat us when we were home from school, if you're a Gen Xer like me. Nothing but good thoughts about the guy, nothing but positivity, and I certainly was hoping he would make it to 100, just as I was hoping for Betty White to make it to 100, but in both cases, of course, sadly, that never came to fruition. But all of those great memories on video and film and in the archives, and thank goodness for Pluto TV's Bob Barker The Price is Right channel, the 24/7 free streaming channel where you can see the 1980s currently episodes of Bob Barker's The Price is Right. But for now, it's Podblast time. We're going to talk about Bob Barker, and I have a really neat unboxing after we talk a little bit about the history of The Price is Right, including the history of the games. And we're going to talk about every single game. And I asked, what's your favorite game on The Price is Right, specifically the Bob Barker era Price is Right, or the current version hosted by Drew Carey. But we want to focus on Bob Barker tonight. But of course, the Nostalgic Podblast is your weird, informative, and hopefully fun time capsule of pleasant memories of days gone by as we forge ahead together in the game of life. This is the Nostalgia Show with a bite. And welcome. I'm Chance Bartels, your host, no relation to Chance the Rapper. We've got a good one for you today, as Steve Harvey would say at the beginning of Family Feud. But we're going to start with a look back at the life of Bob Barker and a bit of the history of The Price is Right. Then later, we'll talk about your favorite Price is Right games. And then we're going to have that live unboxing of an autographed item I sent to an actress that you've seen in many classic television shows and movies that she sent back to me. I've not opened it yet. I'm going to open it live on the Nostalgic Podblast. And if you're listening at FistFulOfRadio out of Atlanta, or Apple or Google Podcast or Spotify or anywhere, I would direct you to The Nostalgic, with a C, The Nostalgic Podblast YouTube channel. And you can see the video of this unboxing, or go to the Nostalgic Podblast Facebook group and you'll see the Facebook Live video. And it's titled Remembering Bob Barker, and I'll have the actress's name in the subject line as well, but I don't want to reveal her identity just yet. She was very kind to send me this unsolicited. Well, I solicited her. I sent some items for her to sign, or an item for her to sign, and I can't wait to open that package for you. And then also, if you recall, you may not recall this, I had a rant about when I bought a bag of Tostitos, which is priced at $5.29 plus tax, when I was making nachos, and I seasoned the beef, had all the ingredients ready. I opened the bag, and it's less than 1/3 full of chips. Well, I complained to Pepsico, the owner of Frito Lay, and I have an update from them. I read a response last time, and in case you missed it, it's just a paragraph long. I'll read the response they sent to me when I lodged a complaint on their website with a photo of the open bag of chips, which was basically filled with air. And they actually mailed me something, which I also will open later in the show. But this is a nostalgia show. This is about our collective memories and experiences, no matter what age group you're in. I don't care if you're a boomer, a Gen Xer, a millennial. This is your show. You'll learn about things from before your time. And I have a lot of great audio of Bob Barker and other things I'm going to share with you tonight, as well as a few clips of the actress And she has an impressive list of credits. You'll know who it is when I reveal the actor who sent me her nice autograph. She has awesome handwriting, too. I know from other autographs I've seen that she signed. And this is for my personal collection. This is not, I'm not some joker that's going to try to sell this on the internet or eBay or whatever. This is for my personal collection. And then finally, at the end of this edition of the Nostalgic Podblast, we're going to toast Bob Barker at the very conclusion of this live edition of the Nostalgic Podblast. So let's get rolling. I'm going to play some music from The Price is Right as I give brief history. This isn't going to be a long 6-hour event. The last Nostalgic Podblast clocked in at over 6 hours, where I counted down the top 55 Billboard charted television theme songs that were released as singles. And by the way, I found out, if you tuned in, why there were certain omissions on the list, like number 33, number 16, number 16 through, I think, 11 were unknown. I think I figured out the reason. There were pop songs in that place. I thought it was a list of the top 55 TV theme songs in terms of their sales performance, just that criteria. No, this was on the pop hits. So that's why there were gaps. I was thinking, guys, because there's ties, and there were ties. There were like 4 at number 1. The number 1 top selling TV theme song of all time. There were 4 of them. Equally tied at number 1. And so I'm like, why is this list incomplete? That's the reason. There was no number 16 ranked Billboard charted hit selling song that was a TV theme. So that was the logic there. And by the way, well, I'll get into it later. The rant of the week, one of my fake rants of the week, it's a very real rant, is about a French company that likes to claim that they own music rights to content on YouTube when they really don't, in the hopes that you'll send them money or a royalty. We'll talk about them and expose them later in the show. But this is a nostalgia happy show. But of course, we're sad about the passing of Bob Barker. And I'm going to play now some of the classic music from Score Productions for The Price is Right as we get into the history. So let's continue. God bless Bob Barker. Thank goodness I've seen nothing but positive remarks on social media and a very fair representation of who Bob Barker was in the mainstream media. Very grateful for that, just because, in my opinion, Bob Barker was the best game show host of all time. I loved his delivery. He seemed very compassionate. He seemed to care about the contestants. And of course, all the wonderful things he did for animals, along with Betty White. God bless her soul as well. I'm a big animal lover, so that means a lot to me. But here's a little mini biography of Bob Barker for you. He was born Robert William Barker in Darlington, Washington State on Wednesday, December 12th, 1923. Bob Barker hosted CBS's The Price is Right from 1972 until 2007, making it the longest-running daytime game show in North American television history. That includes Canada and the USA. Bob is also known for hosting a show called Truth or Consequences from 1956 until 1975. So for a while, in the early to mid-1970s, he was hosting both Truth or Consequences and The Price is Right on CBS Daytime. Bob's original Barker's Beauties, as he coined them, were the models Janice Pennington and Anitra Ford. Anitra Ford, the latter, wound up pursuing an acting career. She left The Price is Right in 1976. She was in The Longest Yard with Burt Reynolds in an explosive scene towards the beginning of that movie, a big fight scene that she had. And she was in the first Wonder Woman television movie, which starred Kathy Lee Crosby as Diana Prince in 1974. The love of Bob Barker's life was his high school sweetheart, Dorothy Jo Gideon. And they were married in 1945 until her death in 1981 from cancer. They never had children, as was the case with Bill Cullen, the predecessor and the first host of The Price is Right on NBC and ABC. Bob Barker stood 6 feet 1 inches tall. His parents' names were Byron John Barker and Matilda Kent Tarleton. Bob Barker had a bachelor's degree from Drury University. The current host of The Price is Right, Marine Drew Carey, issued this statement on X, formerly known as Twitter. Drew Carey said about the loss of Bob Barker, Drew said it marked, quote, a very sad day for the Price is Right family. There hasn't been a day on set that I didn't think of Bob Barker and thank him. I will carry his memory in my heart forever, unquote. As I mentioned earlier, reruns of the Bob Barker era of The Price is Right air 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on Pluto TV for free. Now, back when he passed away, when it was announced that he passed away on Saturday, August 26, 2023, I put on Pluto TV's Bob Barker Price is Right channel, and they had all sorts of technical glitches, which was very annoying. Like they would come back from commercial and show the beginning of the next segment 2 and 3 times, and it would just relay and replay. And I thought, God, I mean, you know, of all days for there to be a technical glitch, and that happens sometimes. I don't know why that happens, but look, I'm grateful to Fremantle Media, who own the Goodson-Todman Library of Game Shows, including Bob Barker's Price is Right, for airing them and making them available to the public since their original air date in the 1980s at all. So, you know, I don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth, but it was annoying noticing all the technical glitches when I'm trying to remember the great Bob Barker, the day that he passed away. I love this music. It's called The Big Banana. If you look on YouTube, there's actually names of these musical cues by Score Productions. The Price is Right, the original version, premiered way back on Monday, September 23rd, 1957 on NBC at 7:30 in the evening. I'm going to read a little bit of history from a book. This is my TV Bible about The Price is Right. Just like with the Bob Barker and the current version of The Price is Right, in the original, which debuted on September 23rd, 1957, hosted by Bill Cullen, 4 contestants competed with each other, and they tried to guess the retail price of merchandise prizes, which were displayed by 2 beautiful models. The contestant who came closest to the retail price without going over it won the merchandise. And these were very extravagant prizes, like yachts. I mean, they had very expensive items in the original Price is Right that were up for bids. Expensive jewelry, all sorts of things. And you can see on the Buzzer Network kinescopes of the Bill Cullen version of The Price is Right, which of course are in black and white. And the kinescope is literally a recording on film, 16 millimeter film typically, of a monitor in the studio. The Price is Right also ran in daytime on NBC from November 1956 until September 1965, even after it had gone to ABC for primetime. It returned to daytime in the fall of 1972 with a modified format in which different kinds of pricing games were used. This new version, emceed by Bob Barker, has been a fixture on the CBS daytime lineup ever since it debuted. In addition, a syndicated version of The Price is Right was produced from 1972 until 1979, with Dennis James serving as the MC until 1976. when Bob Barker took over the reins for the last 3 seasons. A new syndicated version aired during the 1985-1986 television season, hosted by Tom Kennedy, the brother of Jack Nars, another game show host. At the end of that season, 1985 to 1986, The Price is Right was given a brief primetime run with host Bob Barker doing double duty, hosting the daytime version and the primetime version. And that's around the time when he stopped dyeing his hair. That was a big deal. When I was growing up, I had a wonderful housekeeper. Her name was Mary Lemons, and she would take a break and have her lunch and watch The Price is Right. And when I'd be home from school or in the summertime, I'd watch along with her. And I remember she was shocked. We tuned in that season premiere, and she was just over the moon going, "Oh my God, look at Bob's hair." God bless Mary Lemons. I doubt she's still with us. I hope she is. She was a sweet lady. So, as I said, Bill Cullen hosted The Price is Right on NBC and then ABC before CBS revived the show. It was first a half-hour game show. And I'm going to play a little bit in just a second of the very first Price is Right episode on CBS from Monday, September 4th, 1972, which you can find on YouTube if you want to see it. By the way, Bob Barker was The Price is Right's longest-running host from its 1972 debut until his retirement in June 2007 when Drew Carey took over as the host of the show. All along the ride of Bob Barker's era of The Price is Right, he was accompanied by a series of announcers beginning with the great Johnny Olson, who passed away in 1985, followed by Rod Roddy and Rich Fields. But let's listen to how The Price is Right sounded on that day in 1972. I should have it right here for you. There we go. Here's the very first episode of The Price is Right. If I can get it to go for you. You'll hear a slate from Johnny Olson.
New Price is Right. New Price is Right, show number 101-10011D, Air TBA.
To be announced.
A fortune in fabulous prizes may go to these people today if they know when the price is right. Sandy Flournoy, stand up. Paul Levine, stand up. Connie Gunnell, stand up. Myra Carter, stand up. And all 4 of you, come on down. You're the first contestants on the New Price is Right. And now here's the star of the New Price is Right, Bob Barker.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the New Price is Right, and let me assure you, fans of the old Price is Right, that this is your favorite game, still based on the pricing of merchandise, with wonderful awards for smart shoppers. We call it the New Price is Right because we have some exciting new games that you will enjoy right there at home with our studio audience, and we're going to get that first game going right now. Here's the first item up for bids on the New Price is Right.
It's a fur coat.
Ooh. Stop the tape. Stop the tape. Stop the tape. Bob Barker would not want these episodes to air since he was such an animal rights activist. And the reason that the Pluto TV channel of the Bob Barker era of The Price is Right begins in 1982 is because by that point in time, they'd stopped offering furs as prizes to the contestants. So for historical purpose, I'll keep this rolling a little bit longer, but I just wanted to make that important footnote. These episodes cannot be seen anymore. And they released the best of Price is Right on DVD, I think in 2005 or 2006. It's a great collection of classic Bob Barker Price is Right. Okay, let's resume this clip. And there.
Without going over the retail price wins the fur coat. Now, we have rounded off our bids. We have rounded off our prices, that is, to the nearest dollar, so make your bids in dollars and dollars only. And we'll begin with you, Connie. What do you bid for that fur coat?
$350.
$350. All right, Myra?
$900.
$900. And I can't see your name. May I? Sandy?
$150.
$150. And Paul?
$1,000.
$1,000 for Paul. All right. We have our 4 bids, and here is the actual retail price of the fur coat. $595, and Connie is our winner. Come right on up here, Connie.
Let's listen to what the first game was.
Here you go, Connie. Come right around here. That's a girl. Up these steps. Right away to that podium. Oh, yes, Connie. I get the impression you're happy.
Oh, am I?
You are happy.
Oh, yes.
Now, the fur coat is yours. How would you like to win more?
Oh, I'd love to.
Do you think you're up to it? Can you stand it?
I'll try.
Well, we're going to give you a chance to win one of 3 prizes. 2 of them you'd love to have, Connie. Listen to this first prize.
It's a range. From the full line of Whirlpool home appliances, a 30-inch electric range features automatic self-cleaning oven, automatically timed oven with rotisserie and high-speed adjustable broiler.
You'd like that, wouldn't you? To go with that fur coat?
Yes.
But, Connie, listen to this. I'm almost afraid to tell you the way you took off with that fur coat. You may win this.
Yeah, I see it.
It's a car!
See it?
This Vega camback wagon from Chevrolet features bucket seats, power steering, front disc brakes, AM radio, and white striped tires. It handles like a little sports car. Vega from Chevrolet, building a better way to see the USA. Bob?
How would you like to be driving around in that in the fur coat?
Oh, I'd love it.
Dragging your range behind you. But, Connie, I said that you'd love 2 of the prizes. I'm not sure how you'd feel about this one. You stay right here, Connie. You might win the money in this piggy bank. Now, there isn't too much money in that piggy bank, I don't believe. Let me explain that here we have 4 spaces, and in these 4 spaces we'll fill out the price of the car in dollars. Here we have 3 spaces. In those spaces we'll fill out the price of the range in dollars. Down here we have 3 spaces. We'll fill out the money in the piggy bank in dollars and cents. Now, I'll have you give me a number from 0 to 9. Then it will light up wherever it appears in the 3 prices on the board. Every digit from 0 to 9 appears someplace in those 3 prices, but only once. Now, of course, you want to win the car, so you'll hopefully give me numbers for that price. But if the number you give me should appear down here, then you might fill that price out first, and you win the prize of which you fill out first. Give me a number, we'll start.
5.
And let's see where that number 5 is. Number 5 is the last number in the price of the range, Connie. Now, another number that you think might be in the price of that car.
3.
Number 3, show Connie number 3. Number 3 is the first number down here. What'd you say?
I said, get up there where the car is.
Well, there's no way to jump these things around, Connie. We just have to call the right numbers. One more number, though, and you own the range. Try for that car, though. Stay over here behind the podium so we can hear what you say. What number do you want next?
2.
Number 2. Where is that number 2? It's up there. There, you're on the right track now, Connie. Now we're up there where we want to be.
7.
What'd you say?
7.
I didn't hear you.
7.
7 is what you said?
Yeah.
Where is the 7? 7 is the second number. Yes, it is. Now, Connie, stay over here where we can hear you. I think I could hear you in the next studio, but that's all right. Stay over here, Connie. What number is next?
4.
Number 4. Let's see that. Number 4. Number 4.
It's in the car price.
Connie. Now, one more number and you own the car. One more number, you own the range. What number do you want, Connie?
6.
6. Let's see number 6.
You won the car.
so we'll see that all the digits are indeed there. Connie, you won a lot of prizes. We may have you back in our showcase at the end of the show. You stick around. We've just got started. Stick around. Right after this message, we'll have more of the new Price is Right.
$1.09 was in the piggy bank.
All right, let's have another contestant.
So I just wanted to play the very first game that the great Bob Barker emceed on his version of The Price is Right from the very first episode. That was really cool. Let me get back to some background music here. So, obviously, no poop, Sherlock. There are pricing games featured on the current and classic version of The Price is Right. And I'm going to go through. Did you know there's 112 pricing games that were played on The Price is Right? 112 different pricing games to date. And 78 of these 112 games are still being used on the current edition of The Price is Right. I'm just going to briefly go through each and every one of them because I did ask you, the nostalgic Podblast viewer and listener, what was your favorite game that was played on The Price is Right? And I know people that have actually been contestants on The Price is Right. Leonard Jackson, who's been a guest, he's an actor. He's done a lot of commercials. He was recently a contestant on The Price is Right with Drew Carey. He lives out in California. And go through these. You heard any number. Obviously, you heard the explanation by the late, great Bob Barker on how that game is played. Then you had a game for the 50th anniversary that was introduced that was pretty neat. It was called Back to 72. And now it's called Back to 1973 as we're live here in 2023. And what they would do is they would have 3 small prizes that first appeared on the show in 1972 or 1973. And people would have to guess what the original price was. And the announcer would read the ad copy, the original ad copy from the 70s. It's kind of a cool little game. They were supposed to retire it after the 50th season of The Price is Right, but it was so popular that they fibbed and they brought it back. I guess technically it wasn't a fib because it wasn't Back to 1972. They renamed it Back to 1973 and Back to 1974, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's cool that they kept that game running because it's neat to see the nostalgic items that they have up for bids. And then later I have an awesome clip of an interview of Bob Barker by the great Tom Snyder from CNBC way back in the 1990s. It's an awesome interview I'm going to play for you in just a little bit. So let me just find the other list, the other games I want to go over with you real quick. The other pricing games. And I was surprised there was a dark horse. So many people pick Cliffhanger with the Yodeler as their favorite pricing game. That wouldn't be mine. My favorite one is Punch-a-Bunch, where you would punch out, you'd have to earn as many punches as you could, similar to Plinko. Plinko was overwhelmingly the most popular game of viewers of The Price is Right when I polled them, when I asked them. But I like Punch-a-Bunch because I like that element of surprise where greed might sink you or make you win a lot of money. Because you could punch $1,000. Do you want to give it back and see what else you have in the remaining 3 punches? Or do you want to keep the money? A lot of times that burns people's butts when they decide to go on. A game that I really think is interesting is Temptation. And that's one where there's 4 different prizes, but you can instantly win all 4 prizes if you stop. But if you go for the grand prize, which is usually a car, it's almost always a car or vehicle of some sort. If you're off by 1 number, you lose everything. So I always thought I'd keep the damn prizes. If I was offered to play Temptation, I would quit while I was ahead and just keep all of the 4 prizes and not be greedy. And then you had a game called the Balance Game. These are in alphabetical order, which was a prop bag of money representing the last 3 digits in the price of a prize. And it's placed on one side of a balance scale. This is one of my least favorite games, and I would suck at it. That's probably why I don't like it. And the contestant is shown 3 more bags, and you have to have it weigh properly on the scale. That's the balance game. And then you have the bargain game where 2 prizes are shown, each displaying a bargain price lower than the actual retail price. The contestant wins both prizes by choosing the one that has been marked down farther from retail. I don't like the games where they just have to. Danger Price is an interesting one too, where you have to avoid a certain price of typically 4 items. But I don't like the ones where it's just either or. They're just kind of boring. I guess they do that to hurry the show along if they're running over. But that to me is one of the most boring games to watch. And then you had a game called Bonkers. Bargain Game was one of those games I just referred to that I dislike. That's just me, Chance Bartels. That's just my opinion. Opinions are like rear ends. Everybody has one. There's no right or wrong opinion. Bonkers was when a game board displays an incorrect 4-digit price for a prize, and it has 8 spaces, 1 space above and 1 space below each digit. And the contestant is given 4 markers to place on the board, and they have 30 seconds to determine which is the correct digit in the prize, if it's higher or lower than the digit displayed, placing a marker above or below the incorrect digit to denote their choice. The contestant then presses a button. The contestant wins the prize if the guessed pattern is correct. If the guess is incorrect, a buzzer sounds and the contestant must try again, not knowing how many digits are wrong or which ones are wrong. And then you had the bonus game. Let me just go through these quickly. I don't want to bore you to tears with these, but there's some that'll surprise you. And there's some games that are retired and that are banned, like a game called Bump that I've talked about in the Podblast before, where Diane Parkinson would swing her hips onto a little toy train to the price that the contestant thought was a bogus prize or an incorrect price of a prize. I said price of a prize. So you've seen the bonus game where a contestant is asked which of 4 small prizes is priced higher or lower than the incorrect retail price given. And each prize corresponds to one of 4 windows on a game board, one of which conceals the word bonus. And each correct guess wins the small prize and control of the window. The contestant wins a large bonus prize by controlling the window containing the word bonus. And then you had the game Bullseye. Let me just go through these quickly. That's where there's 5 grocery items shown, and the contestant is asked to purchase a quantity of a single item, like, say, Kraft macaroni and cheese. All right, I'm going to pick 3 Kraft macaroni and cheeses. Then you find out what the retail price is multiplied by 3, and you try to get on the board. And then there's a hidden bullseye where you win that way as well. There's 2 ways to win the game of Bullseye. You don't have to actually hit a bullseye on the dartboard. And then you had the card game. That's a playing card game to win a car. You know it. I don't want to bore you with the details there. The check game, which Bob Barker would always be frustrated because most of the contestants, when that game would come up, he'd be very frustrated because people didn't know how to play it, and you have to explain it again and again and again, sometimes in the very same segment, many times. But that's a cool game where you can get cash and a prize if you're successful at it. And you have to be within the range of the prize, retail price. Originally, it was called Blank Check, and the winning range was $3,000 to $3,500, and it was renamed the Check Game in 1986. And the range fell between $5,000 and $6,000 by 1989, and between $7,000 and $8,000 by 2008. The current range for the Check Game is $8,000 and $9,000 as of 2019. Now, this game I don't like much. The Checkout Game. That's where a contestant is asked to individually price 5 grocery items, and typically it'd be a female model, although now sometimes the guy models work the cash register. You know, that's fine. I'm just saying it used to be one of the lady models that would do that. I don't like that game. And then you have the cliffhanger game, which was a very popular game with the yodeler, and I didn't pull a clip of it. I should have, but you remember that sound effect, and it's fun to watch them go over the edge. The clock game, which is like an auction style game where the contestant's given 30 seconds, typically, actually, I think always, to have a shot at, oh, there goes a damn ad, at winning 2 different prizes. I'm going to stop on the music for a sec. God dang it. Let me do this real quick. Bam. This segment brought to you by Walgreens. And then you had a game called Coming or Going, where a contestant is shown a prize and the numbers in a 4-digit price, which are displayed on a shelf, and the shelf can be tilted in 2 directions, coming or going, producing 2 possible prices, one being the reverse of the other. In order to win the prize, the contestant must tilt the shelf in the right direction. And that's similar to the game of Bump. But I like the shell game. It's just like that, like a Las Vegas shell game. You've seen it, and you get a bonus prize if you guess where the ball is. You get a cash prize. I'll just go over some more of these quickly. Game of cover-up. I'm just going to name these because this is getting kind of boring, if I say so myself. The danger price game, I talked about that, where a contestant is shown 4 prizes, and you have to avoid the danger price. Otherwise, you lose everything. And if you do successfully avoid it, you gain everything, all of the prizes. Then the dice game. I like this game, where you play for a car, and you roll the dice, and you try to decide if the price of each individual digit is higher or lower than the die that you rolled. Do the Math was another game. Double Cross, Double Prices, Easy as 1, 2, 3. 5 Price Tags is the name of another game. Flip Flop, which is not one of my favorite games. And in Flip Flop, a game board displays 4 digits in the price of a prize arranged in pairs on 2 panels, and at least one of the pairs of digits needs to be reversed. The contestant may flip the first pair or flop the second pair or flip-flop both pairs. It's very confusing. I would stink at that. That's why I don't like that game. Freeze frame game, gas money game. That's one of the newer games. I like that one because there's a cash component as well as winning a vehicle or a car or a truck or SUV. Golden Road. This game's interesting because usually the grand prize is like a Porsche or a SUV, not a Class A motorhome, but an expensive, I said SUV, I meant motorhome. You'd have like a camper or, an extravagant prize, close to 6 digits in the current edition of The Price is Right. And typically they'll play that in the primetime Price is Right specials hosted by Drew Carey. Golden Road. You just follow the golden road till you get to that grand prize. There's several prizes. The grand game, that's a cash game I like, where you start at $1 and then $10, $100, up to $1,000. Now it's $10,000 in the current grand game. It's more like the 10 grand game these days. Gridlock is a game with little cars. You've seen it. The grocery game, I've talked about that. I don't like the grocery game. Half Off. High-Low. The hole-in-one game. This is the golf game. And I love watching this with Bob Barker because Bob was an avid golfer, and he would give a practice putt and an inspiration putt, he would call it. And he usually would sink a hole-in-one, and he would have a running tab with the crew. How many is that I won in a row? How many is that I sank in a row? And that's fun to watch in the classic Bob Barker Price is Right. And it's always for a car. And with that one, there's also a cash bonus component where you have products you have to put in order of least expensive to the most expensive, and they're little flags like you see on a golf course. And you get a $500 cash prize originally if you got all the prices correct of the items. You'd always start with a dentine gum, right? It'd always be bubble gum or dentine gum that was the cheapest item in the hole-in-one. And then let's see, what year was it? They changed it to here it is, in October 10th, 1986. The contestant got 2 chances to win. You had 2 shots at making a hole-in-one, and they changed the name of the game of hole-in-one to hole-in-one or 2, which is the way it is to this day. Other games, Hot Seat, it's in the bag. With the grocery bags, and you have to match the prices up. Let 'em Roll, that's a dice game with a cash component, usually for a car is the grand prize. Line 'em Up, Lucky 7, that was a favorite when I asked what's your favorite Price is Right game. You know the game. I don't want to be repetitive here, but that's where you have to have at least $1 to buy the car. And you would guess, and I guess the trick is I would always start with a 5. Go in the middle to increase your odds of still having $1 at the end of the game to buy that car. Magic Number game. Make Your Move game. Master Key, that's a fun one. I think it was introduced in 1983. And usually they give you 2 shots at 2 keys. And one of the keys will unlock all 3 prizes. There'll be a vehicle, usually a car or SUV, instead of a motorcycle. There'd be a vehicle as the grand prize, and they'd have a secondary nice prize, but not as nice as a vehicle. And one of the keys will open nothing. So you want to avoid that, and you want to get the master key, which will open and unlock all of the prizes that are literally attached to a giant padlock, a prop padlock. The money game, that's the one where the contestant has 4 shots at getting the first 2 and last 2 digits of the car. That one's okay. I like to watch that one. I'm sure you do too. More or Less was another game. There's another game called Most Expensive. Now or Then. That game's interesting, where you have to decide if a retail item is the price revealed is the price, say, in 2007 or in 2024. Is it now or is it then? And then you have One Away. A contestant has shown an incorrect price for a car, and each digit is displayed in either one higher or one lower than the correct digit in the price. Another game is One Right Price, One Wrong Price, Pass the Buck, Pathfinder, and that game's always played for a car as a grand prize. Pay the Rent, Pick a Number, Pick a Pair. That's where there's 2 items. Let's see, the contestant has shown 6 grocery items that form 3 pairs of an equal price. The contestant selects 2 items, trying to pick one such pair. The price of the first item selected before the contestant selects the second. And then Plinko. Oh my gosh, that was introduced in 1983. And these days it's played for up to $50,000. And of course the contestant earns a chip. And then they just go down the Plink board. I remember Bob Barker would have his little Plinko stick in case the Plinko chip got stuck on one of the pins on the board. Or the pegs, I should say. The pegs on the board. And it debuted in January 1983 on The Price is Right. And that was overwhelmingly, as I said, the most popular game when I asked, what's your favorite game to watch on The Price is Right? Plinko. Pocket Change was another game. And then Punch a Bunch, my favorite game of all time. And then Plinko. The money games are the funnest, most fun to watch. And the top prize on Punch a Bunch currently is $25,000. Pushover, that's another game. The race game, that was one a lot of people chose as their favorite, where the contestant has to run around with a time limit and put the correct price tag on one of 4 items, on all 4 items, and then you pull the lever and you get like a 4. Oh, you got 2 right. There's 20 seconds left. Hurry up and get the right prices on there. And they run around like a chicken with their head cut off. Then you have the range game. A lot of people guess that one. I find that game kind of boring, and people almost always win in the range game. Rat Race, that was a popular one that a lot of people chose as their favorite, with the little rats literally on a racetrack. It's like a little, electronic car game, but with rats instead of cars. And you have to earn a different colored rat, a pink rat, blue rat, orange rat. You pick the one that hopefully it's going to win the race. It's been predetermined by the staff. And then Safe Crackers. That's a cool one. And originally, they would play the Pink Panther Henry Mancini theme in the Bob Barker episodes, but nowadays they just play nondescript music. It's such a shame, like in the wake of the Napster deal, that music rights have become such a challenge. But I love when they would play that Pink Panther theme. And also the showcase showdowns were better and more theatrical in the Bob Barker era Price is Right episodes. And they had all sorts of cool music too. Like they had the doggone Star Trek The Motion Picture theme by Jerry Goldsmith, where they would have like, your showcase takes you into the 25th century. And they'd be like a futuristic theatrical production. And they would play all sorts of show tunes. And I just think it was better. They put a lot more effort and thought into the showcase showdown, or I said showcase showdowns, the showcases at the end of the show. Easy for me to say. The Secret X game, which is like tic-tac-toe. We have to earn as many X's as possible. The Shell game, I talked about that. No explanation required for that one. The Shopping Spree game, Side by Side game, the Spelling Bee game. That game's kind of cool, where there's an instant win, C-A-R. You're trying to spell C-A-R to win a car. But there's one card, or maybe two, that spell car, where it's an instant win. Squeeze play, you know that game. Where you pull out the digit that doesn't belong and squeeze it together, and hopefully you've guessed correctly the retail price where you win the item. Stack the deck, swap meet, stitch, switcheroo. Hopefully these are jogging some of your memories of games you've forgotten about, and the Price is Right. History. Take Two, Temptation, talked about that. Don't need to reiterate that game. That's the one where I would just keep the 4 prizes and not move on. 10 chances, where you have 3 prizes, a grand prize being a car, and you have to write down the price, and they'll show you a bunch of digits with, of course, an incorrect combination. You have to guess the right retail price. Like, say there's a computer. The correct price is $1,500, and it'll have, like, 1,500, and then a 6 in there, and then you have to pull out the incorrect digit and guess correctly what the retail price is to go on before your 10 chances are up. Otherwise, you don't get to play for the car. That's Too Much. That's a pretty cool game where the contestant has to stop just shy of the retail price of a car in order to win it. The 3 Strikes game. I like that game too. Just like it sounds. 3 strikes, you're playing for a car. You're trying to light up the retail price, all the digits of the vehicle, before you get 3 strikes. Otherwise, you're out of the game if you get 3 strikes. Those red X's. Time is Money, To the Penny. That's a pretty cool, more modern game that I like a lot. I won't go into it. Anyone out there, you know the game To the Penny. That's a fun game to watch. Triple Play, 2 for the Price is 1. Vendo Price, that's the game that Leonard Jackson, my buddy, played. And he didn't win, unfortunately, but he did make it to the showcase at the end of a primetime Price is Right. He was on a primetime CBS episode, I think, about 2 years ago. And he didn't win the showcase, unfortunately. And I don't like Vendo Price. And then there's some interactive games. There was one where Bob would actually call a home contestant. I think it started in 1983 and in the 80s. And it was called the Phone Home Game. A takeoff, of course, on E.T. the movie, E.T. the Extraterrestrial. And you'd split the money. The on-stage contestant would split the grand prize with the at-home player. And they were the person at home would call out a prize, and the person on stage would have to pick the item that matches it. And Bob would open a little drawer, or not a drawer, but he would open like a cabinet doohickey and then reveal the prize. Add 'em Up was an interactive game. The Balance game. Told you about Bump. These are in alphabetical order too. Almost done, folks. Almost done with this. And then we're going to move on to my unboxing from a great actress. And I'm going to play some of her clips of her acting work. She's done a lot of remarkable stuff. The things that her characters did on television are pretty memorable. And then Buy or Sell was the Price is Right interactive game. The clearance sale game. The credit card game. Double Bullseye game. Double Digits. Finish Line game. Fortune Hunter gallery game, Give or Keep game, Hit Me game, Hurdies game, H-U-R-D-I-E-S game, It's Optional game, Joker game. I like the Joker game, and the poker game. The poker game's fun. Make Your Mark, Mystery Price, On the Nose, On the Spot, Penny Ante, the Phone Home game, talked about that, poker game. Professor Price game. I know I repeated poker game twice. The shower game, almost done. Split decision game, step up game, Super Ball game. That was a popular one. It's like skee ball. And there was a Super Ball that would get you all the prizes if you got that Super Ball into the hole. Just like skee ball. Looks like going to Showbiz Pizza if you're a kid, or Chuck E. Cheese. Anyway, that was picked by a lot of people. I was surprised. Super Ball is their favorite Price is Right game to watch, and that they would like to play if they ever were a contestant on the show. Super Saver, the telephone game, which is different from the phone home game. Almost done. Trader Bob, and then finally the Walk of Fame game. Wow, that's a lot of games. 112 games, and not all of them are still in use, as I said earlier. Man, What was your favorite? I'm going to read some of, you know what I'm going to do right now? I'm going to read some of your choices in the Nostalgic Podblast Facebook group. But again, that's 112 pricing games that have been played on the Bob Barker through the current edition of The Price is Right, with only 78 still being used in the current show, The Price is Right. Now, let me see if I can get to your comments and your choices, which I know I can. Should have had that pulled up for you. And I can't wait to do this unboxing of this autographed item and the whatever Frito Lay, Pepsico and Frito Lay sent me because of that bad bag of chips that was filled with air. Joe America's out there. The Blink, he said the Blinko game was good at the end of the show also. And of course, I didn't mention this, the Big Wheel. The Big Wheel spinoff, the Showcase Showdown, at the halfway point of the show and at the end. How could I forget that? And a lot of people said just to spin the wheel would be my favorite thing for that shot at $25,000 or $26,000. Let me see something here. Hey, Chance, great show. Rest in peace, Bob Barker. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that very much, sir. Now let me find those comments and those choices. I'm not going to, some people didn't want me to mention their names and I'll respect their privacy. Let me see here. Having trouble pulling it up. I want to give credit where credit is due. I'm not going to give up. I want to read those remarks for you. Turn this down a little bit. For some reason, I can't pull them up. And we're about to move on to another topic. All right, I think I can get it now. Apologize, listeners. This is pretty bad. Pretty bad of me. All right, now I finally got it. I finally got your remarks. And I asked you, what is your favorite game to watch or play on The Price is Right if you had the chance to be on stage? And mine is Punch a Bunch. And then another gentleman who doesn't want to be identified said Plinko is my favorite game. That's the most popular answer, as I said. And then Brian Lipinski said, back when Bob was host, I usually guessed within a few cents of the right prices. Wow, that's interesting. David Kolf, his last name is spelled with a K, K-O-L-F, chose Any Number, the Any Number game. That's his favorite. Kimberlyn Blackburn said the price tag race. And Brian had all sorts of facts he posted on our show page about the different hosts. Bill Cullen, Dennis James, Tom Kennedy. Interesting stuff. James Install, host of the KTRS St. Louis radio show, Sunday nights at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific, and 9 o'clock Central Time. He said, I always like Cliffhanger with the yodeling song. That was a dark horse. So many people chose Cliffhanger. I was surprised by that. Carol Ross chose Plinko. Mr. Daniel chose Plinko. Oh, hang on a second. Sherry Dalton chose Plinko. Thomas Lindquist chose Cliffhanger. David Sisson chose Plinko. Thrash Pondo Ponds. He's got a show on YouTube Sunday nights, usually Sunday nights and sometimes Monday nights at 7:30 Eastern Time. He chose the Swiss Mountain Climber, otherwise known as the Cliffhanger game. Dorothea Gilpin chose Plinko. Just a few more I'm going to read, and then we'll move on. Mark Carbaugh, and his last name is spelled C-A-R-B-A-U-G-H, said Plinking, of course, as in Plinko. A lot of people were like, on other forums where I posed this question, a little arrogant and defiant. It's like, duh, Plinko. I mean, several people were like, Plinko, of course. I mean, they were really like defiant, and I like that. I like that passion. Keep it up. Shane B said Cliffhanger. And now this gentleman, Michael Gronemeyer, could not choose one. He said, my favorites are Cliffhanger, Plinko, Punch Out, and Shell Game. He means Punch a Bunch, but yeah, I agree. Those are all good games. And then Michael asked me which game was the one that featured a little train that Wolf whistled like Curly on the Three Stooges. That always cracked me up. And that was Bump. And that game has been retired. And it's been deemed not appropriate because the models would swing their hips. It would either be Janice or Diane Parkinson. And she'd do a wind-up, and the crowd would be into it, and Wolf whistling and everything. It was a lot of fun. It was in the 80s, man. You know, it was the 80s. But, you know, tastes change and things change. So I have other comments, but I'll leave it at that. Those are the ones I'm going to highlight. But overwhelmingly, it was Plinko. So I'm going to play now an interview with Bob. I know we're over the shock of Bob Barker. And I know we all knew it was going to happen. The man was 99 years of age. But still, now that when that day came, it still was a real downer because anytime you were homesick from school, you know, your mom made you a little nest, gave you some chicken noodle soup, and around 11 a.m., you turned on The Price is Right on CBS, hosted by Bob Barker, and it made everything all better. Now I'm going to play this interview, if I can find my little interview. I know I have it here. With Tom Snyder. By the way, I'm not trying to make this about me, but I made it on the Late Late Show with Tom Snyder on September 20th, 1996. Malcolm McDowell was a guest, and Tom Snyder cracked up when I got on there and asked my question. Now, of course, there's been so many things Malcolm McDowell has done. I mean, so many iconic movies and roles. I mean, I won't go down the list, but my question was, sir, what did it feel like to kill off Captain James T. Kirk in Star Trek Generations? I played the clip on the show, and Tom laughed so loud. And and Malcolm McDowell said, Chance, are you a Trekkie? I take it you're a Trekkie. And he said he had a great time in Nevada with both those captains, is what he said, working with both those captains. And he goes, you know, I just picked up a check and moved on. And I go, wow. And then Tom laughs again. Anyway, but here is the late great Tom Snyder with Bob Barker on his old CNBC show which predated his CBS Late Late Show, which was produced by Worldwide Pants, David Letterman's production company. And it would air on CBS right after The Late Show with David Letterman on CBS. But this is the CNBC years of Tom Snyder with the great Bob Barker. Let's listen.
We are back and joined by broadcaster Bob Barker, who is the star of The Price is Right on CBS television. He's been there for 21 years. It is certainly the longest-running daytime television program now in the history of the medium, and I think that Bob has been on television longer than any other single individual, with the possible exception of Ed Sullivan.
Sullivan, probably, yes.
23 years but you've been 37 years in the industry.
Well, I've been 37 with Truth or Counsel. Well, before I go on, may I tell you, I like your gray hair.
I like your gray hair, too.
I saw your opening, and I couldn't help but think, what beautiful hair you had.
Remember, by the way, when you allowed your hair to go au naturel, the hue and cry in the press, because Bob Barker's getting gray is news. Aren't you supposed to?
Well, I had tinted mine for years,
I know.
You know. And it began to get blue. And then they dyed it, and that made it red.
Yeah.
So I went on vacation, I let it go, and came back with white hair, and the people on the show liked it.
Yeah.
So I did the show with the gray hair, but we had taped ahead. So Tuesday, I had dark hair, and Wednesday, I came through the doors with white hair. And I got a letter from a man in the Midwest. He said, Bob, you must have had one hell of a night.
There's a fella here in town, and I won't mention his name because I like him. He's a nice man, and he's a known personality. And he colors his hair. But he's now at an age where he must also color his eyebrows. And because, you know, you have to look in sync. And I want to say to him, hey, my friend, it's okay. You know, don't worry about it. Let it go. Let me ask you here about I know that you prefer to be identified as an animal rights advocate rather than activist.
I was identified once in an interview as the oldest activist in the country. and I guess I'm that, an advocate. I work for animal protection, certainly.
Let me ask you here about extremes, because I think there are extremes in all agenda.
Of course.
I've often wondered what it is about the dolphin and I don't dislike dolphins. I don't want to see them killed. But if now and again one gets caught in a tuna net, I wonder if it's worth an international hue and cry. And I have to believe it's something to do with Flipper, the television program.
Well, as your guest, I hate to disagree with you, but I really don't think it goes back to
I'm looking for education here. As I once said to you after a program, I said, I think you're right, finally. and for a lot of years, I thought, you know, Bob has lost control, but I think you're right when it comes to animals and the need for their protection.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that more and more people across the country are beginning to agree that something must be done to protect animals. In the case of the dolphin, I really don't, I don't have a background to tell you a great deal about it, beyond the fact that I've read that they're highly intelligent and that they are friends of man.
Right.
You have heard of dolphins that have actually saved lives by pushing people toward shore who were drowning and so on. And to think that these intelligent creatures are being uselessly destroyed is appalling.
I wouldn't want to see them uselessly destroyed, but you know, accidents do happen now and again.
Well, they happen in the case of the tuna nets far too often. But that is being corrected, fortunately, because people are becoming more aware.
Okay. Let me ask you here about another one. And I know that this is going to sound really impertinent. Why isn't anybody protecting the cockroach? I mean, if we take it to its extreme.
That's interesting. I
mean,
I can see it now. Bob Barker, director of Americans for Cockroaches.
But
send me money, please.
But we have huge industries that are set up to exterminate pests, whether they be rats or cockroaches or mosquitoes, ants, et cetera, et cetera. And by the way, I have nothing. But an extremist could really take it to the extreme and say we have no right to do that.
I know of no one who has.
No, but after tonight.
But you probably planted the thought.
So what is advocacy and what is radical behavior?
Well, in my own case, it has been gradual. I had always loved animals. And as a kid in a little town in South Dakota, my mother and I lived in the only two-story building in town, a hotel. And when she wanted me, she would go up on the roof of this hotel and look for the dogs. And when she saw a pack of dogs, then she'd know that's where I was. And she'd fetch me. But as I grew older, I contributed to animal protection organizations, but I was not active in their work. And about 15 years ago, I was asked to be the chairman of Be Kind to Animals Week here in Los Angeles, and I accepted. And I did television interviews and radio interviews, newspaper interviews, and as a result, I was invited by organizations to participate in their work. And I accepted some of them. And as I began to do some of this work, and I began to do more reading and became aware of the terrible exploitation of animals in the United States, in the world, like thousands of other people, I just felt compelled to try to do something to rectify the situation. So I started out very gradually. I, as an example, had never even thought of being a vegetarian. I had read that it was very healthful.
Right. But
because of my concern for animals, I decided to become a vegetarian. Not totally. I first gave up red meat and fowl. And I felt better. And I went in for a physical, and my doctor said, whatever you're doing, keep it up, man. He said, you are in great shape. And then I gave up fish and all meat. And I felt better. And so I can understand now why so many Americans are becoming vegetarians, not because of their interest in animals necessarily, but because of health.
Interest in their own good health. Let me ask you here, I've only got a minute left, so the answer will have to wait till the other side of the break. About the suit against you on behalf of the American Humane Association.
Certainly.
Involving a motion picture called Project X, and I believe another motion picture in which You have been quite vocal in saying that the American Humane Association was derelict in its responsibility to make certain that animals used in motion pictures and productions were being properly protected. Am I pretty well on track there as to what it is?
I have said that animals in the production of movies are not adequately protected.
Okay.
And the specific charges, I quoted investigative reports made by investigators for the Los Angeles Department of Animal Regulation.
Let me hold that thought through the break, and we'll start taking your calls here on the toll-free exchange at 800-745-CNBC. We'll be right back with Bob Barker from The Price is Right, animal rights advocate, after these messages. Thanks for watching, everybody.
I'm going to interject here with something that I mentioned previously, but you might have missed it. On the day that Bob Barker died, back on Saturday, August 26th, 2023, I tuned in, as I'm sure millions of other people did, to the Pluto TV free streaming Bob Barker Price is Right era channel. And they had all sorts of technical glitches. And it was kind of upsetting. I don't think it's because the system crashed because of so many people tuning in. I've seen this happen before on that channel where they'll go to commercial, then come back and it'll show a little bit of the next segment. And then it'll skip back to the beginning of that segment, do that 2 or 3 times. And then like the end of the show will get cut off, like when they reveal who won the showcase at the end. And I don't know. I just thought, man, that's pretty bad. But I do appreciate that channel. And did you know Adam Sandler is the current director of The Price is Right? No, not the Adam Sandler who acted with Bob Barker in Happy Gilmore, which was released by Universal Pictures on February 16th, 1996. I'm sorry, Universal Pictures. What did I say? It was a Universal picture. I'm talking about another guy named Adam Sandler. And I used to think it was the Adam Sandler. I first noticed that credit watching a primetime Drew Carey Price is Right special. And at the end, it said directed by Adam Sandler. And I thought, no, couldn't be, could it? Because I knew, he'd worked with Bob. I thought, man, maybe he's doing this on the side, but I'm sure that's well below his pay grade. Movie producer, director, actor, Adam Sandler. But anyway, I think that's interesting. Adam Sandler is the name of the current director of The Price is Right. Let's get back to a little bit of this interview. I think it's really, really interesting. And then we're going to move on to another topic and do this unboxing of some autographed items or item. I'm not sure how many items she sent back to me. It's stuff I mailed her, and I'll reveal who that is in just a moment. And then got some quick stats of contestants, the top 3 highest earning contestants in game show history. But let's continue with this interview with the late, great Bob Barker, talking with Tom Snyder on his old CNBC show in the early 1990s. Rest in peace, Bob Barker.
Look closely. Can you...
We are back with Bob Barker talking about The Price is Right, which I want to get to in a second. But the lawsuit that they filed against you, what is their beef with you? I mean, it's not like you're against animals, for heaven's sake.
Oh, no, absolutely not. In 1987, Nancy Burnett of United Activists for Animal Rights and we had heard rumors about the chimps in this movie, Project X, being mistreated. And we accumulated enough evidence to get the city attorney interested, and he had the Los Angeles Department of Animal Regulation do an investigation. Right. Now, the first thing I did, I should say, is that I went to the then director of the Hollywood office of the American Humane Association and told her about what I had heard. And she denied that anything had happened, and as a matter of fact, tried to dissuade me from continuing. And in one of the conversations I had with her at this time, I said that I understood that animal trainers carried blackjacks when they worked with chimps. And she said, well, Bob, chimps are wild animals, and the animal trainers have to show them who's boss. And I decided that if this reflected the philosophy of the organization that had the obligation of protecting animals in movie production,
we've got a problem.
We have to pursue this. So we did, and we accumulated this evidence. They did this investigation, and the Department of Animal Regulation for the City of Los Angeles asked for charges to be filed against 6 animal trainers for 18 violations. But unfortunately, the statute of limitations had elapsed on the most appropriate charges, so they were not filed. But Nancy Burnett's organization went to the city and under the Freedom of Information Act secured the investigators' reports. And the reports were shocking. So we took those reports, and Nancy's organization ran ads in Variety quoting from these investigators' reports in an effort to awaken the industry to what is really going on in the production of movies, so far as animals are
Suffice to
concerned.
say that they are now suing you for a combined total of $20 million.
That's right.
And that's still in the courts, and the decision is yet to come in.
We have been in the suit for about 3.5 years, and...
How much does this cost you?
Oh, it's cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars out of my pocket, of course. But I feel that it is money well spent in that if we can ever get them into court and present the evidence that we have accumulated over the years, I think that it will awaken moviegoers to the fact that this whole system has to be changed. At one time, we thought that if the American Humane Association were replaced, everything might be all right.
Right.
But we no longer believe that. In fact, I think it would be difficult to find an organization that would accept the responsibility under the present terms. The whole system has to be changed.
Let me go to the phones. A lot of people on the line here for Bob Barker. Elliot in Rutland, Vermont, the birthplace of my dad. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, sir, Elliot, you're on.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I'd like to say, first of all, Bob Barker, I'm a big fan of yours. And Tom, I'd just like to say to you real quick that my sister, she works for Simon & Schuster in the publishing industry.
Right.
And I don't know if this is going to make you feel any better, but I think the reason that Mr. James Walcott is so concerned with men growing older is because his main hobby in life is very, very young boys. And so I hope that
You didn't hear it here.
that'll explain his obsession with men growing older a little bit to you. But anyway, Mr. Barker.
I hope that's not why you called, Elliot. Go ahead, please. Jeez.
Well, I happen to know it is true.
Oh.
But anyway, I'd like to say to Mr. Barker, I'd like to know how you feel about some of the Tom was talking about this the other night. Someone called about it, about the stars on the Oscars who were talking about political issues. And do you think that's the time and place? Because I actually think that that is the time and place, because when you got so many people watching and they were talking about the Haitians, and I really sympathize with what was going on with the Haitians, and Tom Snyder doesn't seem to really care about them. And I'd like to know what you think about that.
Okay. Although you haven't got it quite right, Elliot, I think it'd be fine if Susan Sarandon and Tim Robbins would come on this program or the Jay Leno show or David Letterman and talk about that issue. I think that's fine.
How many people watch your program?
Very few compared to how many watch the Oscar Awards.
Don't you think it would make more sense that they should talk to lots of people, because nobody really seems to care about what's going on with the Haitians?
Well,
if they go on your show, they might as well be talking in a phone booth.
Okay, but thank you. But how about if they went on with Jay Leno or David Letterman, watched by millions and millions of people? But let me get Bob's thoughts on it.
When have Jay Leno and David Letterman ever spoke about something serious or important on their shows?
There's no way to win with you, is there, Elliot?
Well, why don't you just tell the truth?
I did tell the truth. What do you think about this man's question?
Well, first of all, I didn't see the Oscars.
Right.
So I'm not sure that I know what he's talking about,
Well,
but I would assume that
what
some of the
happened was-
presenters went into political...
Correct.
I think there's a time and a place for it, and I don't know what the situation was. Maybe it was appropriate. I don't know. I know in my own case, I have for many years closed my show with help control the pet population, have your pets spayed or neutered.
Right.
And people have, it's reached a point I can walk into a bar.
Spayed and neutered.
Right. The bartender comes over and makes a remark about it. But I've worked that in to situations, and it was fun. It came off as fun. Now, I don't know how these things came off.
Well, it's almost
Academy
with Bob
Awards.
Barker, it's become a signature line.
It's
almost your
has.
signature. That's fine, and it's one line, and it's not like you come out and make a 5-minute speech on every Price is Right. You wouldn't do that.
One time I had the late Mark Goodson on Price is Right as a guest, and he said, "You know, Bob, if anything ever happens to me," he said, "I want to come back as one of your dogs." I said, Mark, you got to remember, I have my dog spayed or neutered. And he said, forget that, forget that.
Back with more of your calls for Bob Barker of The Price is Right, and eventually on to the rest of our program. We will continue after these messages on the CNBC TV cable network.
Rest in peace, Bob Barker. There's just a few more minutes, literally 3 more minutes. I think this is an important interview. I have not heard this entire interview. I'm hearing this for the first time with you, so I don't know what's going to be said from this moment on. I just listened to the first 5 minutes or so of this interview. And again, there's just about 3 more minutes left. I think it's important as we remember the great Bob Barker. And Tom Snyder. Tom Snyder was one of the greatest interviewers of all time.
Underneath Akron, Ohio, hello.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Oh, hi. Hey, Bob, I love your show. I watch it all the time. My
Good for you,
question
John.
was, what's the craziest thing a contestant ever did on?
There are several.
Should we tell him?
Yeah, go ahead.
We were just talking about it, John. The most talked about single incident in Price is Right history was a young lady in a tube top who was seated in the audience, and her name was called to be a contestant, and she jumped to her feet and she began jumping up and down, and out they came over the tube top. She came on down and they came on out.
And I think that's probably one of the most watched blooper bits in the history of television, is the day that that happened.
It is indeed, and it is talked about wherever I go.
And wasn't there a time when the fair Janice, one of Barker's beauties, drove a car into a wall?
That's right. The lovely Janice was in this car off stage. We like to have these dramatic entrances sometimes, you know, to make the prize as exciting as possible. And the stagehand shoved this car on stage, and she was smiling at the camera, and she ran right into a wall. And I turned to the 4 people in contestants row, and I said, what do you bid on that automobile with that damaged fender right over there?
You know, one of the great lines when people are goofing about showbiz is, you'll look up at the scene and you'll say, what does he win? Bob, it's a new car.
That's right.
By the way, the fellow that took the place of the late Johnny Olson, God rest his soul, Rod Roddy, is a tremendous asset to your program. He has really moved into that role very gracefully.
Johnny Olson was...
legendary.
Legendary. That word is overworked, but for Johnny it is fitting. Of radio as well as television. And when we lost Johnny, we were devastated. But we were so fortunate in finding Rod. Rod's in his 8th year on the show, and I keep reminding him I've made him a star.
You're right. Also, Rod has not missed a lot of meals. You know what I mean?
No, no.
We ought to get Rod on the vegetarian program.
Well, he wants to write a book. He wants to write a book called Come On Down, and the idea is to come on down and wait.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And I've convinced him it will never sell until he loses weight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it won't.
You ain't going to buy a weight loss book from a fat man.
Right. And the reason we can talk like that is he's not here now.
That's right.
Here's Tammy in Wethersfield, Connecticut. Hello.
Good evening, Tom. I'm 22 years old, and I enjoy your show.
Thank you.
I find it very entertaining
Thank
and
you.
informative. My question about Barker.
Sure.
Mr. Bob Barker?
Yes.
Yes, I've been watching your show since I was 5 years old.
Well, that's wonderful. I'm so pleased. I'm flattered.
Well, thanks. And I give you both Nielsen ratings, and I enjoy the heck out of it, beating those other shows.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, my question is, have you ever considered politics?
Have I?
Yes.
Never. Never. I have absolutely no desire to go into politics, and as I grow older and learn more about politics, I have less and less desire to be a part of it.
Well, as I say when I asked that question, I couldn't stand the scrutiny, and I truly could not. You know.
Well, you and I are the only 2 people I know who aren't running for mayor of Los Angeles right now.
Boy, there is
Is
a
it
long...
too late to file? I guess it is.
Yeah, it sure is. It is a long list, though. Tammy, thanks for your kind words. Here's Tom in Minneapolis. Hello.
Hi, Tom.
Hi.
I'd like to ask Bob Barker.
Go ahead.
What do you think of Howard Stern's...
Oh, let's take him off the air. Jeez, oh, man. I want to tell you, folks, you really ought to pay more attention to the fact that they are censoring your buddy's radio show in Los Angeles, the Howard Stern Show, that they are editing the program on replay out here, and the possible First Amendment rights that are being infringed. If you'd pay more attention to that than all this goof stuff you do, you'd find your guys a lot better off. So 21 years. How many more years for Bob? You know, they ask Carson this all the time, and
well, my answer is that at my age, I don't think in terms of years. I'll be there next week.
It's always nice to see you, Mr. Barker.
Oh, thank you,
You're a
Tom.
great broadcaster. You've been a good friend to me over the years, and I appreciate your visiting us tonight.
I have enjoyed it, as I always do, and I hope you'll ask me back.
I will, and don't forget to have your pets spayed or neutered.
You said it.
Right.
You said it.
We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
Just an awesome interview, and I really like hearing the callers. And you heard some weird calls from back then. And I'm sorry I don't have the exact air date. I want to play just a brief clip. I know I didn't mention this yet, of Bob Barker with the love of his life, Dorothy Jo, on Tattletales on October 20th, 1975. I want you to listen to what she sounded like. She sounded very Southern, the love of his life. And I think, you know, we're not going to talk about the negative press, the negative stuff about Bob Barker. No. But I didn't know the man. And by the way, we had Shelley Herman on the Nostalgic Podblast. She has a great book out, Secrets of an NBC Page. And My Peacock Tale, Secrets of an NBC Page is the full title of her book. And when she was on, I asked her about Bob Barker. I said, why did he have a feud with Betty White that was reported about when they both loved animals and did so much for animals? And I'm not going to say now what she said, but she offered, which I take as the gospel, the reason, and it has something to do with an elephant. I'll leave it at that. And I said in that very show, I think it was 2 shows ago, Shelley Herman, I was talking highly of Bob Barker, and I said, God, I hope he makes it to 100. And 99's a good run, though. And now, hey, let's listen to a little bit. But my point was that I think when Dorothy Jo passed away, I think it, of course, affected him in a way that no one could understand. And maybe he ran wild. I don't know. But let's listen to him with his wife on Tattletales, hosted by Bert Convy, real quick, as we all remember the late, great Bob Barker together.
Thank you. Barbara.
Yes, are you there? Yeah?
Don't mind me, I'm new here.
Yes, all right. You're doing
That's
a
not
terrific
him.
job.
Let me get it. Let me get it.
Plus, it's in my nature, I think.
Okay, Henry, you're going to say that you talked to her first.
As we're live, I tried to find this clip, and this is one where a guy named Donald Ross, who was a writer for the Dinah Shore Show, was filling in for host Bert Convy, who was stuck in traffic. He's about to take the stage, Bert Convy. But hang on, I just want to play a little bit of Dorothy Jo.
Let's bring in Lucy. Lucy?
Yes.
You're at this
Let me
party.
get to it. This is
Famous
tough as we're live.
bulldozers
This is
there.
embarrassing.
Which
All
of
right,
you
here we
two
go. Here we go.
are you
That's a
and your husband?
toughie because I think both of us would. But I think
That's Henry Darrow and his wife.
I'm gonna say
Next
I
up will
would
be Bob
because
Barker.
I'm-
Henry Darrow, I met him at the Western Film Fair. He's deceased. He was best known for The High Chaparral, a Western show on NBC. And he was in a Wonder Woman episode with Roy Rogers. And I brought a 16mm film print, watched it with him, and he told me, he said, I don't even remember filming that. I used to drink a lot in those days. How could you not remember working with Linda Carter? Anyway, let me play a little bit.
I had a feeling we were going to fight for that one.
All right. I think here comes Bob Barker and Dorothy Jo.
And I hope you and he get back
Sorry,
together
folks.
again, so, yeah.
I knew you'd be interested, Hank.
Okay, you don't get a share of that one,
No more
Lucy and
hassles
Henry.
at parties, then.
Bob,
I said she's
what
not
do you
gonna-
think about this?
I think that Dorothy Jo would be more interested in talking with her, and I will tell you why. She would want to find out if I had ever talked with her before, you see?
Here comes Bert Convy. See, I don't know. I didn't hear the question. And so this is really bad audio on my part. I don't remember what the question was. Usually he reiterates it. So this Don Ross guy didn't do a good job hosting. He didn't reiterate the question. They'll say it here what the question is. I just wanted to play a little bit of Dorothy Jo's voice. She passed away in 1981 of cancer. That was Bob's high school sweetheart. They never had kids.
Oh, really? That's good. There's only two of us to split the money now, Donald. Did you have fun?
Yes, I had a terrific time. I only have one regret.
What is that?
I have to return the tattletale jacket they gave me.
No, you don't.
No, they said it was your jacket and you had to have it back.
You gave him my jacket? I'm gone 5 minutes and they gave him my clothes? The body isn't even cold yet. They're giving my clothes away.
Look it on the bright side. They rented it to me.
Oh, do we get to split the rent at least?
Good luck.
Thank you, Donald. Donald Rossford.
All right, get to Bob Barker.
When I tell you the real story
talking to a
of
clip
why
from
I'm late,
1975,
which I can't
folks.
do
I've
on
lost
the
my
air,
mind.
Maybe you'll read about it. I hope Annie doesn't
October
hear about it.
20th,
I hope Annie doesn't hear about
1975,
it, too.
Tattletales.
Where are we in the show, by the way? Were we, Bob, were you answering?
Dick has answered, and Hank has answered, and I answered.
Yeah.
And I had said that Dorothy Joe would talk with the young lady first, and then you walked in.
What was the
and
question?
he has gone to your
Yeah, what's the
dressing
question?
room now, which they've also given to Donald.
That's okay. Now, wait a minute now. You're at a party and you find out that one of the women present is a famous call girl. Which of you would be more interested in talking with her, you or your husband? And what are you going to say,
And
Bob?
I predicted that Dorothy Joe would be the one who would talk with her first.
No kidding.
Yep.
Is that the way it's been going while I was gone?
Not necessarily.
You guys have
no.
been lying ever since I left. Is that it? You're going to say Dorothy Joe would be interested in talking with her first. That's right, because you don't want to talk to her.
Well,
I mean, you just would like
you
to.
got here just in time for that line.
I'm sorry. I've made it up all the way. Here we go. It sounds like it. Let's bring in Dorothy Joe. You'll say she'd be more interested. All right, here she comes. Hello there, Dorothy Joe.
Bert, you got back.
Yeah.
I've been immersed in Moosac back here. I couldn't hear a thing, so but you're there.
I thought maybe you'd think Donald's voice had changed on him again.
No, not this time.
Okay, do you remember the question?
No,
the question
no way.
was, you're at a dinner party and you find out that one of the women present is a famous call girl. Which one of you would be more interested in talking with her, you or Bob?
Well, you know, I bet you she wouldn't be very interested in swapping recipes, so I bet that Barker'd have a lot more in common with her.
Yeah.
So he said I'd want to.
No, Bob would probably like to have a lot more in common with her, but he thought you would be more interested in talking to her.
No.
Sorry about that, darling.
Yeah.
Is everybody answered?
Everyone.
Yes.
That's it? It means Dick and Barbara got the whole thing for the first section.
Dick Gautier. So what that show was about, for those who don't know, it was like a he said, she said show. The women are backstage. They have headphones on. They can't hear what the guys are saying. You try to match your spouse. And what happens is the audience gets cash. At the end of the taping, they're literally handed checks back in those days. So there's different sections, a green section, a yellow section they called the banana section, and a red section. Anyway, so that's what I just want to play a little bit of Dorothy Joe, who was the love of Bob Barker's life, and hopefully they're in heaven together right now. Rest in peace, Bob Barker. So I guess that's for now. I'm going to toast to Bob Barker at the end of the show, but let's move on to something else for the time being, nostalgia related, of course. I want to get to the unboxing of an autographed item that I'd sent off for. Bob was the best. I'll leave that music going. So, I guess it's time for me to reveal. It's almost unboxing time. And what I'm going to do is I am going to let you know who the actress is. Now, when you hear the name, you may or may not know who she is, but when I explain who this is, you'll know exactly who she is. And I'll give you some tips on things you can see that she's done. And you've seen a lot of the shows, the television shows. She was primarily a television actress, but she also did some movies too that you've seen. Let me find this real quick. I've got to get her clips ready. And for the reveal, it's unboxing time. Through the show, I'm not going to announce, of course, her address. I found a mailing address where people have written to this person and asked for an autograph. And of course, I included some scratch for her time and for postage and whatnot. Scratch meaning money. And she's had a lot of roles that I really, really liked. She got to kill William Shatner's character in a classic television show, In Self-Defense. She was in a lot of the Quinn Martin stuff. She won awards for her own acting before a live studio audience. I'm just going to reveal who it is. She was in the very first episode of The Rockford Files opposite James Garner, among many other projects. Come on, you bugger. Let me get this right here. I'll get this for you now. Oh, shoot. Where'd my drum roll go? Well, talk about anticlimactic. Oh, and I didn't tell you. You know what I can do while I'm fooling around this? I'll tell you real quick the game show records that I promised you. Of course, I think most people know this. It was Ken Jennings who holds the #1 spot for the #1 earning contestant, and then Brad Rutter, who was a Jeopardy contestant, and then James Holzhauer is in the #3 spot of the most earnings on a game show as a contestant. And of course, Ken Jennings' streak on Jeopardy lasted for 74 games back in 2004, earning him $2,520,700. Incredible. But we're going to move on now. I forgot that I didn't give you that statistic. Golly, I don't know what happened here to my drum roll. Where are you? All right, now this actress was in a Disney movie that did very well at the box office. It was a successful movie, and it's on Disney Plus right now. There we go. It's one of the Herbie movies, The Love Bug. I'm talking about Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo specifically. She's been in The Invaders. She's been in Matlock. She played Ben Matlock's lady friend. I'm talking about Julie Sommars. If you've not heard that name, you've seen her face, and she has a really sweet voice I'm going to play in just a second as I open this package that she mailed back to me. Her last name is spelled Sommars. And as I said, she was a lady friend of Ben Matlock, played by Andy Griffith. And she was the race car driver in the 1977 Disney film Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo. Her first credited acting role was on the Loretta Young Show, playing a character named Laurie, which had an interesting way of spelling that name, Laury, Laurie Barlow. Wow. In an episode titled The Trouble with Laurie's Men, which was a season 7 episode of that show, which aired way back on March 13th, 1960. But again, to me, she was William Shatner's fiancée in The Fugitive, season 3 episode titled Stranger in the Mirror. And spoiler alert, I've already spoiled this, she killed William Shatner's character in self-defense in that episode that aired way back on Tuesday, December 7th, 1965 at 10 p.m. on ABC TV. In that episode, Shatner's character is a former policeman. And that's a show based on the Sam Shepard case, loosely, and Les Miserables, about a doctor accused of killing his wife, but he's innocent, and he's searching for the real killer, the man with one arm. And he doesn't realize, he comes to work at a boys' club, he doesn't realize that William Shatner's character is a former police officer. Turns out he has a mental block and like a split personality, and he's a cop killer, William Shatner's character is. But I'm going to play a little bit of her on-screen audio credit from that Fugitive episode, and she went on to guest star in another Fugitive episode about a year later in full color. This was a black and white episode, which is going to air pretty soon on MeTV as we're live. MeTV has always had a pretty bad time slot for The Fugitive, unless you have a DVR. It airs Sunday night, technically Monday morning at 2 a.m., 2 to 3 a.m., 1 hour show. But here is Julie Sommars' credit in the Fugitive opening credits of Stranger in the Mirror, Season 3, Episode 12 of that program.
The guest stars in tonight's story, William Shatner, Norman Fell,
Mr. Roper,
Julie Sommars. Tonight's episode, Stranger in the Mirror.
Now I'm going to play a little bit of her acting in that episode where she actually shoots William Shatner's character. And you heard Norman Fell. Norman Fell went on to, of course, play Mr. Stanley Roper in Three's Company and the spinoff The Ropers. And then they brought him back in a season 6 episode of Three's Company titled Night of the Ropers. He and Helen return to their old place. And hilarity ensues. But let me play a little bit of the end of that fugitive episode. I just want you to hear Julie Sommars' voice.
Tony.
That's Norman Fell right there.
What are you saying? I saw him through the window.
Who's speaking is a African-American black officer who was just shot by William Shatner's character.
I saw him fire the gun. You shot him. Get the gun, Carol.
She's got the gun.
Come on, Tony. Come on.
Our hero, Dr. Richard Kimball, played by the late, great David Jansen, who passed away way back in 1980, is trying to get Shatner's character to face justice. And they're in a cabin. They're holed up in a cabin, and Shatner's character has smashed out one of the glass panes, and he shot that cop, the black officer.
Come on.
Shatner just knocked Kimball to the ground.
Tony, no. No.
That's her. Shatner's about to take a free weight and smash Kimball's head with it.
Tony, no!
Yes, Tony is finally...
He's shot in the chest by his reluctant fiancée, who had no choice. Then he collapses. Okay. And if you want to see this episode on YouTube, someone posted it 2 months ago. I bet it'll get pulled off of YouTube for copyright pretty soon, but it's on there. And it's a really dramatic scene. And Shatner's acting, it's an incredible death scene. I'll just say that. But I always liked her voice. That's Julie Sommars in that fugitive. I'll get to the unboxing in just a second. And like I said, the following season, just over a full year later, she returned to The Fugitive to portray an entirely different character, this time in full color in the season 4 episode titled The Blessings of Liberty, which aired at 10 p.m. on ABC on Tuesday, December 20th, 1966. And I just want to play her opening credit. And Hank Sims was the guy that would announce the guest stars of each episode. Here we go. And you're going to hear someone that she acted with that's very notable in terms of pop culture history. And one of our guests spoke highly of her recently here on the Nostalgic Podblast.
Next, The Fugitive, in color.
Venus, I'm sure. His pulse is weak. There must be internal bleeding. The bullet probably severed the branch of the...
Leave the scene of the crime. There we go. Freed him to run before the relentless pursuit of the police lieutenant obsessed with his capture.
The guest stars in tonight's story, Ludwig Donat, Julie Sommars, Arlene Martell. Tonight's episode, The Blessings of Liberty.
Brought to you by Ski, America's Sun Specialist. So, you just heard Arlene Martell's credit there. She went on the following TV season to portray Spock's wife, T'Pring in an episode Amok Time, which was the season 2 premiere of classic Star Trek. Although it was like the 5th one that was filmed for that season. It was the first one that aired by NBC. They chose that one to air first. And she was previously seen on The Outer Limits, in Demon with a Glass Hand, written by Harlan Ellison, as well as being a regular in Hogan's Heroes. Author and official biographer of Bob Crane, Carol M. Ford, who's been on this Podblast, if you want to look it up. She was a great guest. She spoke very highly of Arlene Martell in my interview with her here on the Nostalgic Podblast. And she has a great book about Bob Crane, available now. The same TV season of that Fugitive, the only color episode that Julie Sommars acted in, which was in the 1966 to 1967 television season, Julie Sommars also was cast in another Quinn Martin dramatic television series. This time, she played a pivotal role in The Invaders as hero David Vincent's very pregnant sister-in-law, Grace Vincent, in the last episode filmed in production order of season 1 of The Invaders. And I'm going to play a clip. You'll hear a little bit of the opening narration of The Invaders. And if this guy's voice sounds familiar, that's William Woodson, who later would recite the opening words to the Odd Couple TV show. But let me pull up this clip that I extracted from my DVD set of The Invaders and play this for you. It's very brief. We're always kind of clip heavy on this show because I can't stand the sound of my own voice. I want to have some interesting stuff for you to hear. Okay, let me get it. Here it is.
It began with the landing of a craft from another galaxy. Now, David Vincent knows that the invaders are here, that they've taken human form. Somehow he must convince a disbelieving world that the nightmare has already begun. The guest stars in tonight's story, Lyndon Childs, Julie Sommars, Edward Asner, and special guest star Burgess Meredith.
What a cast.
Tonight's episode, Wall of Crystal.
So you heard Burgess Meredith's name, and he was already playing the Penguin on Batman at this point in time. Season 2 of Batman was on the air in the 1966 to 1967 season. The Invaders was a winter replacement show on ABC that debuted on January 10th, 1967, smack dab in the middle of the 1966 to 1967 television season. And I've got one other little clip of that Invaders episode where you can hear the sweet voice of Julie Sommars. And as I do that, I'm going to get ready to unbox this signed item that she sent back to me. Let me play this right fast. This clip's about 2 minutes long, but it's a good scene. This is the very end of this episode. And then also you heard Ed Asner. They called him Edward Asner in those days, was in the cast. This was about 3 years before the debut of the Mary Tyler Moore Show, where he played Lou Grant and had such a prolific acting career. He played Lou Grant in a solo show, Lou Grant, after the Mary Tyler Moore Show went off the air. Hour-long drama, Lou Grant. You never see that show anymore. That was a good show. Let me play now this clip, and I'm going to start opening the package. I want to open this carefully and reveal the signed item as we listen to this 2-minute clip. If I could get it to go, I want to hear the musical note. Hang on, folks.
What is this temperature right now, Mrs. Johnson? 102. Well, just keep in mind quiet.
Is that from memory?
She's painting a picture.
Easy to forget.
God, I keep talking over her voice. I'm going to start this over.
I suppose.
I didn't set the stage very well. She's painting a picture of Burgess Meredith's character, who was a radio host, television host. He had a TV program in the story, and the invaders killed him. And so she's sitting there painting a portrait of Burgess Meredith's character. I'm going to start the whole thing over. I just did.
What is this temperature right now, Mrs. Johnson? 102. Well, just keep in mind quiet.
Is that from memory?
Mr. Booth's not easy to forget. Now, I suppose you're leaving us, too.
Oh, I'll be back. Now, you take good care of my nephew, will you?
mind the hot count prices and keep tracking his temperature. And I'll see him tomorrow afternoon. Yes. Did you stay for a day or two?
No, we both have work to do.
Grace and I, we'd like to do something to help.
You already have.
Now that we've seen them, now that we know who they are, I hate to see you go this alone, even if you weren't my brother.
Thanks. I may take you out on that someday. Take good care of Grace, huh?
Take good care of yourself.
One man fighting a secret war against a hidden enemy. Someday, when that enemy is defeated, David Vincent will no longer be alone. Someday.
Ominous music while I show this lovely autograph on camera. We'll talk about that score in a moment. This is awesome. Getting emotional. It says, hello, Chance. Love, Julie Sommars. If you're listening at Fistful of Radio, go to the Nostalgic Podblast YouTube channel and look up the video, Remembering Bob Barker and Profile of Julie Sommars. And you can see she signed 2 of them. What I did was I sent her 2 comic books. I said, comic books of a show I'm about to talk about in a minute that she won an award for, The Governor and JJ. And she was JJ. That was her character, Jennifer Jo. And for some reason, Gold Key made a comic book of this show. And I don't know why. But I asked her if she'd come on the Podblast. I wrote her a handwritten fan letter talking about some of my favorite performances she did. She retired from acting in 1994 to spend time with her husband and family. And Matlock had changed locations. This is what I read online. I don't know how true this is, from Los Angeles to North Carolina, and she wasn't willing at that time to relocate. And so she left the show, but they brought her back in a later episode, playing Ben Matlock's lady friend. This one also says, to Chance, Julie Sommars. How great is that? I'm so happy. As you see in the background, I have multiple copies. I wasn't sure if it was the right mailing address, so I sent, extra copies. Although my favorite cover, there were 3 Gold Key comics based on this show that she starred in. And I'll have to look through. There might be a note inside, but I'll do that after I get off the air. I don't know. But that's good enough. I mean, I wanted her to keep one and just send one back. And then I sent money for postage, of course. A little scratch, a little extra. But that's my favorite cover. I only have 1 copy of that, so I didn't mail that. And then one other thing that she did, or was on the cover of TV Guide twice. And I have, where the heck is it? It's right. I want to show you on camera the cover of TV Guide where she's actually it looks like she's being eaten by a giraffe. I should have sent that, but it's like in such good condition and it doesn't have a subscription label on it. Usually TV Guides are subscription copies that you see anymore. Oh, hell. I'll have to find that. I need to get on for the listeners, with my bio of Julie Sommars. And I have like one other clip. Oh, I thought I had that here for you guys. Dadgummit. There it is. Oh no, everything's falling. At least I found the TV Guide. Okay, let me put this up for the viewers. I hope it's in frame. There's a great article in there. And I would love to have that signed, but I'm not going to push my luck. Look, I wrote her out of the blue. She doesn't know me from Adam. And I think that's just really awesome that she took the time to mail me an autograph as everything's falling in the background. Oh, wow. Got some other history. I'm going to continue with the bio of Julie Sommars. I'm just trying to get reorganized here for my video feed. Gee whiz. Everything fell. But you heard her voice in some of those clips. She has a really sweet voice, I think. And very talented. And just those key roles. I think the role of David Vincent's sister-in-law is very significant if you're a fan of The Invaders. I'm all over the place. This is a painting my mom did when I was a teenager on my wall of my bedroom of Spider-Man, the Hobgoblin, and the Green Goblin. How cool is that? I always like to have that. Mom's still with us, thank gosh. She's just like an awesome mother, retired school teacher. Anyway, I'm in heaven. I'll look at these when I get off the air, these comic books that she signed. And maybe there's an Easter egg in there, but even if there's not, I'm just delighted that she sent both of them back. I wanted her sincerely to have one in case she didn't have one in her home library. So I'll get to the Invaders later. I want to move on with her career. So after she guest starred in those 2 Quinn Martin shows and other things, she was in Bonanza. I'll go over her whole filmography in a moment. I mean, she was in The Man from U.N.C.L.E. She guest starred in all of these great pop culturally significant television shows. It's incredible. But after those roles in the 1960s, in 1969, awards for her acting prowess, ability, and talent soon followed for her performances in front of a live studio audience as the title character in the sitcom The Governor and JJ. Julie Sommars played Jennifer Jo, otherwise known as JJ. More about her awards in a moment. For now, here is how that sitcom sounded. I'm just going to play a little bit of the opening. And at the time, Ronald Reagan was running for governor of the state of California. So I think that was part of the inspiration of this sitcom. Gosh darn it, I thought I had that clip for you. I'm not talking like a hayseed. I'm all verklempt over those autographs. It's so nice. Okay. I want to play a little bit of how that show sounded. It lasted for 2 seasons, really a season and a half. It would have lasted longer had CBS not screwed with the schedule. I'll explain more in a moment. But here's how that show sounded, and it had a kind of an interesting opening theme song. Let's just listen to a little bit of the comedy, The Governor and JJ.
Good morning, everybody. Is someone sick? Did someone die?
You're getting warm.
It seems that Bradbury is leading me in the latest polls, 38% to 32%. Now, I can understand the voters rejecting me if I had failed them, but I did everything I promised in the last campaign.
Well, that's probably it. Voters know a politician doesn't keep his word. You kept yours. They don't trust you.
Well, that kind of logic is right out of Alice in Wonderland.
Well, still and all, I think one of the main reasons... Nope, I'm not going to say it. I'm just going to go to work.
Now, you can't leave without saying what you decided not to say.
No, I know George's reaction. He'll just say, bite your tongue.
I will not say bite your tongue. Say it.
I think Dad ought to debate Bradbury on television.
You bite your tongue.
I think people feel when Bradbury challenged you to a debate and you didn't accept that you chickened out.
I didn't chicken out, I just turned them down.
Well, 32% of the voters would say you turned him down.
And 38% would say you chickened out.
George, if I recall correctly, you're the one who argued against my debating Bradbury on television.
Governor, if you'll remember, we decided that Larry Buck Bradbury was the star of a television series that ran for 7 years.
8.
Well, 8 anyway. Television is his medium. You put him in front of a television camera, he's right at home.
Right. Well, I've got to go to work. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye, Jenny. George, I'm not exactly a stranger to television myself.
Yeah, but Governor, you against Bradbury? That's sermonette against Friday night movies. Governor, they're not going to be listening. They're going to be looking, Governor. People just love Larry Buck Bradbury and that television show of his gun barrel that ran for 7 years.
8.
Well, 8 years. Anyway, Governor, they keep thinking of him as the good guy.
Well, who's Dad, the bad guy?
I see George's point, Governor. You go on television against Bradbury, and the audience will just naturally assume you're a cattle rustler.
Oh, this is ridiculous. Bradbury's an actor. What's his platform going to be? You like me in Gun Barrel, you'll love me in the governor's mansion?
Well, you've got to admit, with the steel gray eyes and the granite jaw and that wavy gray hair, he's everybody's idea of what a governor should look like.
Tell me something, Maggie. Who are you going to vote for? Now, look, this is getting us nowhere. I've got to go on television and shoot it out with old Buck Bradbury.
Yep, but I've got to go to work. See you all later.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye, have a nice day.
Governor?
George, don't talk me out of it. It's something I've got to do. What now?
I forgot. This is my day off.
So The Governor and JJ had a nice time slot in its first season, Tuesday nights at 9:30, right after the Red Skelton Hour, and opposite old movies on ABC and NBC's Movies of the Week. So it didn't have any other sitcoms opposite it, and it did well in the ratings. CBS unfortunately rescheduled The Governor and JJ for its second season premiere to air on Wednesday evenings at 8:30, beginning on September 16th, 1970, head-to-head opposite Room 222 on ABC, which was in the height of its popularity. And it was also winning awards at that time, Room 222 was. Karen Valentine had won an award, and several of the cast members, the actor who played the Principal Kaufman from My Big Fat Greek Wedding, he won an award. Oh, well, I'm digressing, but so it was unfortunate that CBS placed The Governor and JJ opposite Room 222. The final all-new episode of The Governor and JJ was episode number 39 in CBS aired order, titled From Here to Maternity, and that aired on Wednesday, December 30th, 1970 at 8:30 p.m. However, CBS aired reruns months later, years later, in prime time from June until August 1972 of The Governor and JJ during that presidential election year of 1972. All in the Family took the Governor and JJ Season 1 viewing position Tuesdays at 9:30, starting with the All in the Family debut on January 12th, 1971. A few months after the last new Governor and JJ episode had aired in the new time slot of Wednesday night opposite Room 222. Some quick background on Julie Sommars. She was born on Monday, April 15th, tax day, I won't say the year, in Fremont, Nebraska. She was raised in Iowa and South Dakota. Sommars is best known for her work on television, and she made her television debut in 1960 at the age of 18, as I mentioned earlier, in an episode of The Loretta Young Show. She later appeared in Gunsmoke, Shirley Temple's Storybook, The Great Adventure, Bonanza, Run, Buddy, Run, which was a fugitive ripoff, Perry Mason, and that one's coming up on MeTV, something about a cat. I've never seen it, but I'll have it on my DVR set to go. It's going to air pretty soon, like within the next month or so. She was in Ben Casey, Death Valley Days. As you already heard, 2 episodes of The Fugitive, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., The Invaders, Get Smart, and Love American Style as a nurse. From 1969 to 1970, Julie Sommars starred as Jennifer Jo J.J. Drinkwater, the daughter of Dan Daly's The Governor, in the CBS comedy series The Governor and J.J. In 1970, Julie Sommars won the Golden Globe Award for Best Actress from the Foreign Press in the category Best Actress Television Series, Musical, or Comedy for her performance on that show. And sadly, the series was canceled after 2 seasons, thanks to CBS screwing with the air date, the time slot. After The Governor and JJ, Julie Sommars played the leading roles in a number of made-for-television movies, and she starred in several pilots. She guest starred in the Rockford Files in the very first episode, the first weekly episode. She was in Harry O, again with David Jansen from The Fugitive, whom she'd worked with previously in that show. McLeod, Macmillan and Wife, and she was in another Quinn Martin show, Barnaby Jones, 2 times in the 1970s. Fantasy Island, Magnum P.I., and Diagnosis Murder. In 1984, she was a regular cast member in the short-lived syndicated soap opera titled Rituals. From 1987 to 1994, Julie Sommars played Assistant District Attorney Julie March on the NBC legal drama series Matlock. And of course, it went to ABC and it changed shooting locations, which reportedly is why she left the show. You don't see many interviews with Julie Sommars. She must be a very private person, or she's shy, or you don't see anything on television, print, internet, podcast, nothing. I would have been honored to interview her, but I'm just grateful to have these signed comic books. I would have been just thrilled with just one, and she sent both back. So that's totally super cool. Now, the role in Matlock also garnered Julie Sommars a nomination for another Golden Globe Award for Best Supporting Actress on Television in 1990. But she actually won in 1970. And the Barnaby Jones show that she acted in, most know this, but I'll just reiterate for those that don't know, starred Betty Ebsen, Lee Merriweather, and then later on, Mark Shera from SWAT. After SWAT was canceled, he joined the regular cast of Barnaby Jones as JR. Now, in terms of movies, Julie Sommars appeared in 4 films. She played the female lead in the 1965 Western, The Great Sioux Massacre, S-I-O-U-X. I think it's Sioux. The Great Sioux Massacre, opposite Joseph Cotton. The following year, she starred with Brian Bedford in the comedy titled The Pad and How to Use It. And in 1977, I saw this when I was 5 years old in the theater. Julie Sommars co-starred with Dean Jones and the great Don Knotts as the beautiful, assertive Diane Darcy in Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo. I'm going to play just 1 minute's worth of scenes from that movie, and it is streaming on Disney Plus right now. Unfortunately, the movie Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo was opposite Star Wars and Smokey the Bandit in the summer of 1977. It did well. It made money, but I think it would have done better had it not been opposite Star Wars. Let me see what the heck I did with that clip. It's right here. And then we're going to get on to another topic. But I'm just over the moon. I wanted to do this live with you, open up the package. I've had it for a few days. I wanted to wait and play it for you. Where is that clip? Darn it. Finally found it. I pulled about 30 clips for this edition of the Nostalgic Podblast. There we go. Let me back it up.
Here comes the raciest comedy of the year. Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo.
Well, you're looking at the winner right here.
This car? The winner?
He didn't. He did.
It's Paris to Monte Carlo, where the love bug is bitten by the love bug.
I'm telling you, Paris and women have got him.
When a car like Herbie comes to Paris, he meets a beautiful Lancia that's also a car like Herbie is, with a...
When the men come by from the booby hatch, go quietly.
Herbie finds the car of his dreams and a stolen diamond in his tank.
$6 million.
Pull over. We want that car.
He's up to his axles in trouble and head over wheels in love.
We got the old Herbie back.
Dean Jones, Don Knotts, Julie Sommars, and the all-new Herbie.
The old Herbie and the new Herbie rolled into one.
It's more fun per gallon. It's Walt Disney Productions' Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo.
Now, the villain, actually the main villain in that movie, Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo, was Eric Braeden, who has had a tremendously long run in the soap opera The Young and the Restless. But he was in that. And then also in that was the actor who played Dr. Bombay in Bewitched, Bernard Fox. And they both went on to star together in the big screen blockbuster Titanic. So I guess it's a little bit of a, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon for you there. And I got a little bit of Invaders trivia, but wrapping on the subject of Julie Sommars and that nice autograph she sent, 2 autographs, in fact. As I said, she guest starred in the very first episode of The Rockford Files, and she had tons of scenes with James Garner. She played a major role in that very first episode. I was hoping they would have brought her back, but she was in the very first regular episode. And Rockford Files, starring James Garner, began airing as a weekly series on NBC on Friday, September 13th, 1974 at 9 o'clock. And there was a movie preceding that, a 90-minute movie, I believe, a television movie that aired on March 27th, 1974, titled The Rockford Files, which starred Lindsay Wagner and Bill Mumy co-starred in a smaller role in that very first movie. But when it was picked up as a weekly series, Julie Sommars was in episode 1. And there were 113 one-hour episodes of The Rockford Files, 5 two-hour episodes, including episodes with Tom Selleck right before Magnum P.I. started. He played a P.I. Lance towards the end of the run of The Rockford Files, the last couple seasons. It was filmed at Universal Studios. And, of course, due to knee pain and other reasons, James Garner quit the show, The Rockford Files. The final episode of Rockford Files aired on Friday, July 25th, 1980 at 8 p.m. And what an amazing theme song by Mike Post for The Rockford Files. So Julie Sommars retired from acting in 1994 with her final appearance on Matlock as her character of prosecuting attorney Julie March in the episode titled The Confession, which aired on ABC on December 1st, 1994, which was season 9, episode 7, and I've not seen it yet. I just started watching Matlock, and I really, really enjoyed it. I always thought it was a show for older folks, and hell, I'm there now. I'm an older folk myself. I'm an older person, so it's very well written. It's like a Columbo. Well written, well acted, and they get away with a lot of violence on Matlock. I was shocked. But I just want to now talk about some of her acting credits. I'm not going to get into her personal stuff. She's been married to her current husband since 1984. I'll just leave it at that. And this is kind of cool. She was born in Fremont, Nebraska, as I mentioned, to a government grain inspector father and a school teacher. She attended schools in Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota. And while she was a student in Iowa, her father, without her knowledge, entered her name in a worldwide talent hunt. 15-year-old Julie Sommars found herself in Chicago auditioning for the lead role in the film St. Joan. She didn't get that part, but as a high school senior, she did win the American Legion State Oratory Contest in Aberdeen, South Dakota. She was the only female winner in all of what was then the 48 states. Before Alaska and Hawaii, I guess, were added. Those intercontinental states there. After graduation from high school, Julie Sommars took the Greyhound bus to California for a summer job teaching horseback riding and swimming, and attended San Bernardino Valley College. Her appearance in the play titled Our Town led to her being Loretta Young's daughter in an episode of The Loretta Young Show that we talked about. And she was 19 at the time. Her big break came in another talent hunt. She competed for and won the female lead in Ross Hunter's talent hunt for unknowns to play in his 1966 black comedy titled The Pad and How to Use It, based on the Peter Shaffer play titled The Private Ear. In 1969, okay, we talked about the governor and JJ. I'm obviously reading off of Wikipedia. And I've written some original content tonight in terms of a little biography for her, but I don't want to be repetitive here. Yeah, 1969, she began starring in the comedy series The Governor and JJ, playing Dan Daly's daughter, Jennifer Jo, in 1970. In 1970, she won a Golden Globe, as I mentioned, for Best Actress in a Musical or Comedy, tying with Carol Burnett, as well as the Best New Star Award from the Television Critics Association for her role as Jennifer Jo, JJ. Upon retiring from March 1999 to March of 2000, Julie Sommars served as a public member of the California Judicial Performance Commission. From 2000 to 2003, she served as a public member on the Board of Governors for the state of California. As of 2021, Julie Sommars lives in California with John Carnes, Karns, her husband of over 39 years. 40 years by now. Between them, they have 3 children, J.C. Irwin, Mike Carnes, and Bill Carnes. And that mini biography was from the International Movie Database, written by a guy named Gary Brumberg, Brumburgh. So what I just read, that passage was from the International Movie Database listing for Julie Sommars. So thank you. I doubt she's watching out there, but thank you for the autographs. You just don't find many or any print, internet, TV, radio, or podcast interviews with Julie Sommars. She's obviously probably a very private person who's just enjoying life. I appreciate her contributions to television and film history. So was there one other thing? Yeah, and I just want to just go over just some brief credits, and then I'll wrap on the topic of Julie Sommars. Loretta Young show. I'm going to go in order of guest appearances she made on classic television shows. She was in Sea Hunt in 1960. Shirley Temple Storybook, mentioned that. Holiday Lodge, The Tall Man, Outlaws, The Great Adventure. A lot of these shows I've never seen or even heard of. A lot of Westerns. Bonanza, that aired on MeTV recently. Sex and the College Girl in 1964. Slattery's People, that's spelled Slattery''S, Slattery's People, 1965. She was in Flipper. She was in Perry Mason. I want to watch that episode of Perry Mason. I heard that was a good episode. What is it called? The Case of the Careless Kitten. That's it. I knew it had something to do with a cat. She was in Mr. Novak. She was in the movie The Great Sioux Massacre. That's spelled Sioux, like Sioux City. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I should be. Ben Casey talked about that. Death Valley Days, The Pad and How to Use It. She was in Gunsmoke 4 times, 4 episodes of Gunsmoke, run between 1964 and 1966. She was in Run, Buddy Run, which was a knockoff on The Fugitive in 1966. Bob Hope Presents The Chrysler Theater in 1966, playing Maggie Lake. Talked about the Fugitive episodes, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. I mentioned that. She was in 2 episodes of The Man from U.N.C.L.E. in 1965 and 1967, playing 2 different characters. She was in The Invaders, and a pivotal role as Grace Vincent. And in that episode, I didn't mention Wall of Crystal. She and David Vincent's brother, she's married to his brother who's a doctor. They don't believe in David Vincent's story, architect David Vincent's story about aliens, but they become believers by the end of the episode. She was in Dundee and the Culhane. That's like spelled like Crocodile Dundee, Dundee, and the Culhane, Culhane. In 1967, she was in He and She in 1967. She guest starred in Get Smart in 1968. And she was in European Eye, Judd for the Defense, The Felony Squad, The Name of the Game. I mean, listen to these credits. I mean, I don't know why she's not more popular than she is. She's popular with me as a television fan, classic TV fan. She was in The Virginian in 1968, the 90-minute Western. She was in The FBI. That was a Quinn Martin production I didn't mention. She was in that show 3 times between 1967 and 1969. She was in Lancer in 1969. I already talked about this. Love American Style in the segment Love and the Nurse, I think with Artie Johnson from Laugh-In. Very interesting. Terrible impression. She was obviously in The Governor and JJ, talked about that. She was in How to Steal an Airplane in 1971. After The Governor and JJ wrapped, she was in 5 Desperate Women in 1971. The Harness in 1971. These must be the pilots that I talked about. She was in Owen Marshall, Counselor at Law in 1972. She was in Thriller in 1974, not to be confused with the Boris Karloff Thriller from MCA Television from 1960 to 1962. 2-season show, anthology horror show. She was in Rex Harrison Presents Stories of Love in 1974. She was in Fools, Females, and Fun in 1974. Harry O with David Jansen in one episode in 1974. The Rockford Files debut episode. McCloud, 2 episodes between 1971 and 1974. Almost done with this list, but it's very impressive to me. 3 for the Road in 1973, Switch in 1975, The Family, Holvac in 1975, Ellery Queen in 1975, Bronx, Jigsaw John, both in 1976, Macmillan and Wife in 1977, the movie Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo, talked about that. Summer of 77 is when it was released. Centennial. She played Alice in Centennial in 1979. She was in Sex and the Single Parent in 1979, which is a television film. I already talked about the 2 Barnaby Jones episodes she acted in. Matt and Jenny in 1979. Cave In, TV movie, 1983. Fantasy Island, 2 episodes between 1978 and 1980. Another Aaron Spelling hit show. Insight in 1980, 1 episode of that show. And then I'd like to see this. I've never seen this. Beyond Westworld, based on the movies. There was a short-lived television show that was pretty cool, and she was in a 19 episode of Beyond Westworld. Magnum PI in a 1982 episode. She played 2 characters. That might tie in. I've never seen it. That might tie into my TV cliche of the week we'll talk about in just a second. She was in something called Waitress in 1982, The Devlin Connection in 1982, Emergency Room in 1983, Rituals, nighttime soap opera, 1984. Partners in Crime. That was a short-lived show. I think they only had 13 episodes, starring Linda Carter and Lonnie Anderson. And she was in 1 episode of that show. Perry Mason, The Case of the Glass Coffin in 1991. And then 1 episode of Diagnosis Murder in 1991. Then her final credit was that final appearance in Matlock in 1994 as her character, Julie March. So very grateful and to her and to you listening to all that, but I think it's important. We're a historical educational program, and I think she's a very underrated, competent, retired actor, and I wish her and her family all the best. So now I just want to briefly talk about The Invaders briefly. I've talked about that show ad nauseum, but to me, I just think it's so cool that she was in The Fugitive and The Invaders, and that's TV gold right there, to be in those 2 shows. And I'd pulled a clip. I played a little bit of the end theme, and anyone that was watching the video, I reveal one of her autographs while that terribly sad or depressing music of Dread by Dominique Frontier's playing. That was a miscue on my part. But that music, the theme to The Invaders, was based on an Outer Limits attempted spinoff titled The Unknown. Now, I played this in the Halloween Podblast. I play this every Halloween in the Halloween Nostalgic Podblast edition, but I want to play a little bit of it now. Okay. And this is William Woodson. Another thing that just occurred to me. I talked about, all right, The Unknown, let me back up. It had David McCallum. It was going to be an anthology horror show like a thriller starring Boris Karloff. Meaning different actors, different plots every week, like The Twilight Zone, if you will, but on the horror side of things, and like The Outer Limits was, an anthology. And it was not picked up by ABC. They went with Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea from Irwin Allen, and so it was not picked up, so they re-edited this pilot titled The Unknown and aired it as the final season 1 episode of The Outer Limits. By the way, there was only 48 episodes of the original Outer Limits, which aired between September 63 and January 65. It was canceled in the middle of its 2nd season, The Outer Limits was. But this pilot was really cool. It had all sorts. Vera Miles was in it. Barbara Rush was in it, among other actors. But if you know The Invaders, after the 4th episode, when they go to a commercial, there was a tearing effect, a rip effect. I wish I could show you. Very unique. The first 4 episodes, it would just fade to black at the end of each act to go to a commercial break. But they had this cool little tearing effect, and that came from The Unknown. If you look on YouTube, look up The Unknown opening titles so you can see it. I wish I could show it to you, but I'm going to play you a little bit of the audio. So here's what was recycled for The Invaders a few years after this was made. The ripping effect, the musical theme, and the friggin' narrator. That was the third piece I've never put together. That's William Woodson. Same narrator and some of the same dialogue a little bit about lonely country roads. That was in the opening credits of every Invaders episode, like David Vincent was searching for black coffee. And they talked about lonely country roads that architect David Vincent was traveling in the middle of the night at like 4 a.m. on his way home from a business trip. And I'm going to play now the opening to The Unknown just for educational purposes. And it's really dark and spooky. Let's listen.
There is a fear that is unlike all other fears. It has a special clammy chill. A deadly gift for inspiring deeper, darker dread. It is the fear of unopened doors, of locked rooms, of bends in lonely roads. It is the fear of the phone call in the dead of the night, of the stranger you recognize, perhaps from a nightmare. It is the fear of the unexpected, the unfamiliar. It is the fear of the unknown.
That was the terror effect on the screen. That's the ripping effect that they use in The Invaders when they go to commercial break. Here's the end of the pilot.
Murder, madness, and other lurking horrors are the raw certainties that await you in the depths of the unknown.
So it was very dark. I'm not going to play anymore. I played the whole thing in the Halloween 2022 edition of the Nostalgic Podblast. But that unsold pilot, as I said, was re-edited and retitled and broadcast on Monday, May 4th, 1964. Retitled The Form of Things Unknown. And it still had the same music, but of course, the Outer Limits opening with the control voice, voiced by Vic Perrin. By the way, I meant to mention, in the trailer I played for the Disney movie Herbie Goes to Monte Carlo, that was Dick Tufeld, who also voiced the robot in Lost in Space, among many, many other things. He had one of the best voices in television and radio, and he was the narrator on The Time Tunnel and many other things. And he was the narrator on Lost in Space last week, as you recall, in the first couple seasons anyway. They dropped that in season 3 of Lost in Space. By the way, The Invaders, believe it or not, did have a final episode that resolved the storyline. A lot of people don't think it did, but the network did not air it properly in the proper order. It was an episode titled The Life Seekers with guest actors Diana Muldaur, Barry Morse, best known as Lieutenant Philip Gerard on The Fugitive, and R.G. Armstrong. And, of course, Barry Morse was in Space 1999 as Professor Victor Bergman. And The Invaders' one-hour show began on ABC at 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday, January 10th, 1967, and wound up in The Fugitive's former time slot at 10 p.m. Tuesday night, starting on September 17th, starting in September 5th, 1967. That was a week after the final Fugitive aired, which I have a 16mm film print of the final 2 Fugitives with the original commercials, including a cigarette ad with Deanna Lund, who went on to star in Land of the Giants and many other things. She was in an ad for Bel Air cigarettes. Bel Air, Bel Air, Bel Air. There were 43 episodes of The Invaders, but I recommend the extended pilot, which is on the CBS Paramount official DVD release. It's longer. It fleshes out the details of the story, Ellen Corby is in the pilot, who went on to play, of course, Grandma Walton in The Waltons. All sorts of great actors are in that Invaders pilot. So let me see what else I have for you. And again, salute to Julie Sommars. That's awesome. Thank you for the autographs. I've got really quickly to talk about our friends at Remind Magazine. And they have an incredible offer. I mean, what can you get for $12 for the entire year? For the entire year. I'm not talking about a month of streaming service for $12. I'm talking about $1 an issue, regular price $5 an issue, by the way, of Remind Magazine. Here's the current edition for the viewers with Christopher Reeve on the cover. This makes an awesome gift for college students, for birthdays, and they'll think you spent a hell of a lot more than just $12, for goodness sakes. And, of course, that's tax-free, no postage, no nothing. But this offer will end soon. And remember, Remind Magazine, if you're here listening or watching the Nostalgic Podblast, you're into nostalgia, as I am. So this is right up your alley, Remind Magazine. And all you have to do is go to remindmagazine.com, or you can call Old School at a toll-free number, so have your pen or pencil ready. But I want to mention, if you're not familiar with this magazine, each issue of Remind Magazine has dozens of brain-teasing puzzles, trivia quizzes, classic comics, and monthly themed features from the 1950s to the 1990s. And the best part is, it comes to you in the mail each and every month, just like the good old days when you'd wait for your favorite magazine to arrive, be it Sports Illustrated, Boys Life. You get the point. So here's the number, 855-773-6463. That's 855-773-6463. Or just go to remindmagazine.com. And please mention the Nostalgic Podblast when you order. Now, I mentioned this last time, but in case you missed it, I ticked off a couple of people, imagine that, when I was talking about something I thought would be cool. I'm a big fan of actor William Shatner, and all I said was I posted a factoid in a Facebook group, and I said, fun fact, William Shatner has never sought to become a U.S. citizen, as well as a Canadian citizen. And he's a loud and proud Canadian, I get it. And look, who am I? He is an international superstar and a legend, a living legend. So, you know, he could clearly do whatever he wants. I get it. But I just thought it would be cool, and he'd get a lot of free publicity if he became a co-citizen, you know, to the country that helped him become what he is. In part, it was his talent, but he had a lot of opportunity in the U.S., but clearly he can do whatever he wants. So he's a proud Canadian, so I guess we gotta give a shout out to the real Canadian hero, Shatner. Yo, Shatner. Little takeoff on the 1980s G.I. Joe cartoon theme song. Pretty stupid joke, but I meant absolutely no offense, but people really let me have it. It was a small minority of people, but they were pretty vocal in their comments. Like, who cares? He can do whatever he wants. I'm like, all right, man, shit, forget I said anything. Good grief. Anyway, so that was pretty crazy. Let me find something else here. Oh, I've got to talk about the nostalgic toy of the week. It's right here for the viewers. The X-ray goggles. These things never work, and they were marketed, I guess, to perverts, as you can see right there on camera, implying that you could actually see through ladies' blouses if you wore these crazy specs. They never worked. It was the biggest gimmick. You'd always see ads in comic books and things, but that's the nostalgic toy of the week. I never ordered them. I found those in a novelty store about 5 years ago, and the ones you're seeing on camera, anyone that's watching. By the way, if you're listening out of Atlanta on Fistful of Radio, streaming it, or on the audio platforms, go to the Nostalgic Podblast YouTube channel if you want to see, and just shuttle search through it, because I intentionally put these things on camera so you can find a topic that interests you, because sometimes I go a little long. Like the last week's show, my gosh, I went over 6 hours. It's the coffee, folks. I'm not on drugs. And in that edition, we were counting down the top 55 TV theme songs on the Billboard charts. Plus, I threw in some game show history and some game show musical themes. But I had some issues, and that's part of my fake rant of the week. But this one is very real, my friends. What happened was, oh, geez, I thought I was plugged in. I came unplugged my computer. Now you plugged in. I thought this was about to go off the air. My computer became unplugged there. All right, man, I was about to just cut off. Oh, thank God I noticed that. My fake rant of the week. Ooh, and then I got the TV cliche of the week. Well, all right, here's what happened. There's a French company out there called Believe Music. And I know I played a little more than I should have of these TV theme songs as I counted down to the number one, and there were 4 tied at number 1, 4 TV theme songs on the Billboard charts. And so I would talk over most of them for obvious reasons. But this company out of France claimed 2 of the songs, and they do not own the rights to that music. I verified that, confirmed it. And there's many YouTube videos about this operation, Believe Music, pulling some sort of a scam, the other YouTubers claim, to get revenue, where they want you to donate money for royalties. But this is what others claim. Don't sue me. This is just what I've seen. You can see it for yourself. So anyway, thanks to Believe Music, my last show was throttled down and was partially blocked around the world by YouTube for viewers outside the USA. And now I clearly do not own the rights to these TV themes. And I think my mistake also was I was playing the 45 versions instead of the televised versions. I think the televised versions in most cases are okay, but a 45 is just like a pop song. It's like playing Beth by Kiss, or, it's like playing a mainstream rock song. I know I can't do that. But anyway, so I think that was part of my mistake as well. But Believe Music claimed 2 themes they don't own the rights to. I know that, and that screwed up the whole thing. So if you want to hear it, my point is just look up the Nostalgic Podblast, just Google search it, and you can find the audio, because hell, it's mostly audio friendly anyway, that whole show. If you're on a long trip, if you've got 6 hours to kill, or if you want to just listen at an hour at a time, I put bookmarks in there so you can get right to the part in the midway part, and you'll know there's cue marks if you want to check that out. So that really ticked me off with this French company, and they're messing with other people too, other creators out there. So I wanted to clear the air about that. Now it's time for the TV cliche or expression of the week. One example is temporary blindness. A main character goes blind. We've talked about that before. This week I'm talking about, and I've not talked about this yet, the doppelganger, the evil twin, the good twin, the double, whatever, where there's a main cast member of a TV show that appears as another character altogether in the story. It happened on My 3 Sons with Fred McMurray. It happened on both Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie with Elizabeth Montgomery and Barbara Eden, respectively. Hell, it also happened with Dick York on Bewitched in a black and white episode in season 2. Captain Kirk on Star Trek was duplicated many times. Think of a TV show you watched where this happened. Patty Duke played 3 different characters in the Patty Duke Show season 2 episode, where it's revealed that Patty and Kathy have a 3rd identical cousin, which is preposterous genetically to even have 2 identical cousins. But in that episode, she also played the Southern Belle Betsy from Atlanta, Georgia. And that episode's titled The Perfect Hostess, not to be confused with the makers of Twinkies or Ding Dongs. The Perfect Hostess was the episode title. So that's my TV cliche of the week, the double or doppelganger, if you will. Item, I saw a funny t-shirt the other day, and it cracked me up. This lady, while she's working, is wearing a t-shirt, and I agree with it. This is so funny. I got tickled by this. It says, the French fry at the bottom of the bag is the best fry of all. I thought that was kind of funny. I want to get a copy of it. I want to get that shirt. The French fry at the bottom of the bag is the best fry of all. I thought that was cute. And that's up there with Socrates in my book. And it's certainly true and poetic. So, whoa. Oh, gosh, I got to give you this update. I have another mini unboxing. Nothing up there like the items that Julie Sommars mailed back to me that I was hoping she'd autograph, and she did. So sweet of her. And I love her voice. I know I said that earlier. She has the best, cutest voice and smile. And no, I'm not crushing on her. I'm not. I just appreciate her presence as an actor. I want to talk really quickly about something I've talked about in the last couple Podblasts. This isn't long, but it's about what happened with Frito Lay, where I was making nachos and I'd seasoned the beef. I'd done all the hard work. I opened the bag, and the bag of Tostitos with sea salt, yellow corn, tortilla chips, it's less than a fourth full. I mean, there was hardly anything in it. It was all air. And that bag cost $5.29 plus tax. So I was miffed. I mean, that was like the main ingredient, the chip. And I didn't have any chips. So I wrote them. I sent a picture. I wasn't nasty. I wasn't mean. I just stated what I just said. I stated the truth. And I got a response back. I read it last week, but in case you missed it, because it was a 6.5-hour show that's been throttled down thanks to Believe Music in France, saying that they own the rights to the 45 version of Mission Impossible and the Bonanza theme. BS. Here's what PepsiCo, who owns Frito Lay chips, wrote back to me, and I appreciate this. Hi, Chance. Thank you for contacting us. We're always concerned when a consumer has a negative experience with one of our snacks and apologize for the inconvenience and disappointment this caused. We are mailing coupons to you, which I did. I got to cover up my address. I have them right here. I don't know what's in them. I joked, watch it just be 10 cents off your next purchase, but we'll see together what's in this thing. And I don't know how they had my address. They may have required that I put the address in when I sent the complaint. I don't remember. I don't recall that. But we're mailing coupons to you, which should arrive in 10 to 15 business days, which they did within 5 business days. Excuse me. We understand how disappointing it is to win. I'm quoting, it has a little grammatical error. I'm just going to read it verbatim. We understand how disappointing it is to win. Your package may not be filled correctly and sincerely apologize for the disappointment this caused. When you purchase our packages, you expect chips, not air. It may be helpful to know that our packages are filled by weight, not by the number of chips. A certain amount of air is needed in the package to help prevent breakage during shipping and handling, as well as to maintain freshness. Well, hell, I'd rather have crushed chips than no chips. That's just me, Chance Bartels, your host of the nostalgic Podblast, speaking his mind. Specifically designed equipment is used to remove packages that may be underfilled or empty. On occasion, packages may be missed, and we do apologize. In other words, don't sue us. I'm kidding, like you'd have a claim. Your information is very helpful and has been shared with the teams responsible for making the product. We'll do everything we can to prevent a reoccurrence. You are a valued consumer. Thank you for choosing Frito Lay snacks and for bringing this to our attention. Thanks again for reaching out to us. We truly value your loyalty and your business. Best regards, Brianna, Team PepsiCo, PepsiCo Consumer Experience, end quote. I appreciate that very much. Now let's see what they sent. I have the envelope right here that they mailed me. I got to make sure that my address is not on camera. Let me cover it up and show the viewers. I didn't cover that up yet. I like their little logo, Team PepsiCo. So let's see what they sent. And we're going to start to wrap the show. I've been going very long lately. Let's see what they sent me. I see several coupons here. I feel like it's the golden ticket in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. First of all, it says, thank you for your loyalty to our products. Thank you for reaching out. Thank you. I like a little smiley face. And I have 3 coupons good for any Frito Lay product up to $4.99. Check that. It's 1. So that makes up for the 1 bag I got. But I bought 2. I bought another one to open live on the show, and it was also underfilled. So that's cool. They gave me 1, so I get the bag. And then I have $2 off coupons. I think that I'm more than satisfied with that. That's cool. And for future reference, I'm going to buy tortilla chips with the clear bag where you can see what's in them. Hang on a second. I grabbed one. I want to play some music while I need to step into the other room. I want to show you what I'm talking about. I feel bad doing this. Let's listen to a little bit more of let's listen to the underscoring of the Price is Right walking theme as I grab this bag of chips. Bless you, Bob Barker. So I feel really disloyal considering they made good, but I will show you this. Meantime, this is before I open that. So now we're cool. Frito Lay, you and I are good. And I'm a Pepsi guy. I hate to say that. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, Coca-Cola country. A lot of you will hate me for saying that, but it's only because my grandparents lived in St. Louis, Missouri. By the way, I talked about James Enstall earlier. KTRS, his show is Geek to Me Radio. I forgot to mention the title of his show. But meantime, I was just buying for future reference next time McNachos. The bags that are clear, like the one I'm holding up for the viewers, where you can see how many chips you're getting. Anyway, but Frito Lay made good on that. So let's talk about the nostalgic treat of the week. And it's Zingers by Dolly Madison. Ooh, I hear a bad hum there. Sorry about that, folks. I'm going to play a little retro commercial for Dolly Madison by the Peanuts Gang. Charles Schultz's classic characters endorsed, if you will, Zingers products. And Zingers are kind of like Twinkies, but with an icing on top. It's terribly unhealthy, but bad for your teeth. But they sure were tasty growing up. When we were kids, we didn't think about that stuff, right? Here is a 1980, if I can get it to play, commercial for Dolly Madison. Uh-oh. I think it's already been scrubbed from existence. Well, I had a backup one. Let me see if I can play the backup one. Come on. Yes. Success.
Just give me the facts. Every time I try to enjoy a zinger, it gets zapped. See? I didn't see anything. Describe the alleged zingers. Well, there's devil's food with chocolate icing, gold cake with creamy vanilla, raspberry with coconut, all with cream centers. It's your imagination, Charlie Brown. There's no zinger zapper. See?
When you have zingers around, there's no escaping the zinger zapper.
There you go. And that was Lucy and Charlie Brown in that commercial. But I used to love to peel the icing off Zingers and eat it separately when I was a kid. good stuff. So Dolly Madison snacks are probably best known for us Gen Xers for their long association with the characters from Charles M. Schulz. The Peanuts comic strip gang. Charlie Brown and his friends appeared on Dolly Madison packages and in television commercials like the one you just heard in the 1960s, 1970s, and 1980s. The bakery, along with Coca-Cola and McDonald's, was a major sponsor of the Peanuts animated television specials on CBS during that period. Each pie flavor was sold with a different character on the wrapper, including Charlie Brown on cherry and banana cream pie, Linus on the apple pie, Lucy on the lemon pie, Schroeder on the berry pie, Sally on the coconut cream and pineapple pie, Frida on the chocolate pie. I never had a chocolate pie, Hostess or Dolly Madison. Peppermint Patty on the strawberry and peach pie, and then Marcy on the boysenberry pie. Yeah. Yeah. The wrappers were later redesigned and featured Snoopy on all of the flavors. Charlie Brown was also on Zingers packages wearing a baseball cap. Snoopy was also on Gems, the donut packages as well. The powdered donuts and the chocolate covered little donuts. The original Dolly Madison logo was used from 1969 through the mid-1980s. The original Dolly Madison Outlet Bakery Store logo was used from the mid-1980s through November of 2012. During the period when the packages featured the Peanuts characters, the advertising agency for Dolly Madison products was Dancer Fitzgerald Samples, San Francisco branch, primarily due to its proximity to Charles Schulz, who was based in nearby Santa Rosa, California. Now, we're going to toast Bob Barker in just a second as we wrap the show. I want to just give some shout outs to some other nostalgia related programs that I enjoy. We'll skip taglines. I haven't done this in a while, but I'm trying to get back into having some taglines, like maybe 5 to 10 taglines, an advertising tagline, and you name the product. We did magazine taglines last time. It could be a soft drink. It could be beer. I name a tagline, you think of the product. But we'll skip that this week. Want to give some shout outs. I forgot to mention the Retro Zest show and the Retro Zest podcast, retrozest.com. That is a fantastic show with excellent guests that I recommend. Superior audio quality. It's a great listening experience. And also want to mention BK on the Air, which is a radio show out of Cartersville, Georgia. Saturdays, 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time on WBHF, which has been around that radio station since 1947 or 46. A long time. And then I want to also mention Geek to Me Radio that I just mentioned, which is live for 1 hour on KTRS, which is a huge radio station in St. Louis, Missouri. He's on for 1 hour Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and 9 p.m. Central and Mountain Time. And he's on YouTube Live as well most Sunday nights, or on Facebook Live simulcast most Sunday nights. Check out Thrash Pondo on YouTube Sunday and Monday evenings. Open by Chance Toys on YouTube. That's a husband and wife team. They're based in Georgia, where I am, and I've met them a couple times in person recently at various shows, including one about 2 weeks ago, a toy and comic book collector show. I want to recommend the Superman homepage. It's been around for decades. They're live on YouTube Monday night at 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific time with a 1 hour show. And it's all things Superman. If you're into Superman, not just the Christopher Reeve movies or George Reeves television show or Kirk Allen or the current projects, it's all things Superman. And they show comic book covers throughout history and a lot of good news pertaining to Superman. Steve Eunice is the main host of that program. And if you haven't already, check out, this is a monster YouTube channel, Dave Sundstrom. He does a lot of great live content. And he recently produced an excellent video piece about vintage Topps and Flair TV and movie bubblegum trading cards. It's a must-see for a Gen Xer that collected that stuff as I did. And Dave Sundstrom, Sunstrom. And Barry King is the host of BK on the Air. I don't think I mentioned that. He hosted along with Alan Sanders. BHF, and he's on YouTube as well. BK, like Burger King, letters B, letter K on the air. And then Golden Rage of TV, a guy named Pat McCormack, who's a guitarist. He was a regular on General Hospital. He won an Emmy Award for being in a fictional band on General Hospital, the classic daytime soap opera. So he's a good guy as well. Yeah, so that's everybody. And I'm sorry I didn't mention the Retrozest shows by accident last time. He does a lot of promoting for me and the Nostalgic Podblast, this very program. So that's it. I wish you all a great week. This is Chance Bartels of the Nostalgic Podblast signing off. God bless the memory of Bob Barker. Don't let any haters get to you with any BS. I have not seen anything. I've seen nothing but love, thank goodness, in the wake of his passing back in August of 2023. I'm sure that'll change, unfortunately, but all the good he did for animals as an animal lover. And I showed on camera my pet bunny rabbit baby a while ago, earlier, if you want to check her out. She was so scared. Bunnies they're prey animals. They don't like to be held, but she trusts me, but she was shaking like a leaf. So I put her back in her area. She has a nice big area here at home, and she's a very cute little pet. But now let's raise a glass, whether you're drinking coffee or something stronger, to the great Bob Barker. And I want to play this for you now as we sign off. Instead of playing our regular theme music, I'm going to play this. He's a television legend, and I'm confident he's in heaven now with Dorothy Jo, the love of his life.
It's so nice to be here in Japan.
So this is Toto performing 99, which is how many years the great Bob Barker was on this earth. 99 years. God bless you, Bob Barker. The greatest game show host of all time, in my opinion. And thanks again to Julie Sommars for sending me those great autographed items. She's the best.